Chapter 367. In the middle of the Demon's Spirit Island, in the Demon's Spirit Mountain Range, on the two-headed mountain where demonic aura and spiritual aura separated, an ape the size of an ordinary person was carrying a burly man and running at full speed. On the white face of the ape, there was a pair of red eyes filled with madness. Every time the ape ran, a yellow light would appear under its feet and small holes would appear on the rocks under its feet. The ape seemed to have gone berserk. In the blink of an eye, it rushed from the eastern side of the two-headed mountain to the western side of the mountain that was filled with demonic aura. Just as the ape rushed into the western side of the mountain, two figures appeared outside the dense demonic aura. One of them was an ordinary-looking youth. He was extremely anxious and only briefly scanned the demonic aura before rushing in. However, the other middle-aged man who was following him stopped him and said, "Fellow Taoist foe, we have to be careful in this demonic aura area. In such a dense demonic aura, our strength is greatly weakened and the power of our divine sense is suppressed. Our flying speed is also greatly hindered by the demonic aura. Fellow Taoist, don't forget that in addition to us Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, there are an unknown number of Peak Level 4 demonic beasts that have entered the Demon's Spirit Island. If we encounter a powerful demonic beast, their strength will increase by at least 20% in this dense demonic aura. We may not be their match." The ordinary-looking youth shook his head and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I must go in. This demonic aura can hinder my white spirit mouse's spiritual sense. If they escape a bit further, we won't be able to catch up. Enough talk. If there is a chance to obtain the sentient puppet technique, I won't give up." The youth quickly explained and passed by the middle-aged man. At the same time, he summoned a flying magic tool and flew in. The middle-aged man sighed and activated his magic power to follow him. It turned out that these two people were Philostikes and Xiao Hongfei. Previously, the two of them relied on the white spirit mouse's heavenly abode spirit mouse ability and used their lightning attribute magic power to fly with all their might. When they reached the outskirts of the Demon's Spirit Mountain Range, they felt the attack power of a core formation cultivator in the depths of the mountain range. The two of them were shocked and immediately used the mid-level top-grade invisibility talisman to carefully sneak in. When they reached the depths of the forest, they found two demonic beasts fighting not far away, and their target was healing himself. They immediately knew that this was an excellent opportunity. Therefore, taking advantage of the change in Lu Kuan's expression, the two of them used their strongest attacks. Xiao Hongfei combined several of his magic tools and released the power of pseudo-magic treasure. Philostikes also used his pseudo-magic treasure with all his strength. Although Lu Kuan's defense was strong, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand their continuous attacks. Just when they felt that they had a 90% chance of winning, the demon monkey that they didn't take seriously actually turned around and saved Lu Kuan at an extremely fast speed. Furthermore, by relying on the strange pair of sticks on his back, he was able to block the attacks of two pseudo-magical treasures. This monkey's explosive speed was extremely fast. Borrowing the residual power of their pseudo-magic treasures' attacks, it rushed into the demonic fog not far away like a phantom. Not long after Philostikes and Xiao Hongfei chased into the demonic aura area, Lu Kuan's physical body gradually regained some consciousness. However, he still couldn't move. The scene that had just happened was completely seen by his spiritual awareness. When he saw Xiao Jin being hit by two pseudo-magic treasures, his heart clenched. Seeing Xiao Jin spit out a mouthful of blood, he didn't fall down. Instead, he frantically escaped at his fastest speed. Lu Kuan became even more worried. No one knew the strength of Xiao Jin's physical body better than him. Although there were two wishful meteoric iron sticks to resist, the power of the two pseudo-magic treasures must have entered Xiao Jin's body and seriously injured his body. The speed that Xiao Jin used at this time was the same as his thunderous explosion steps. It could only be used for a short distance. However, Xiao Jin used this speed to run over a mountain. Lu Kuan couldn't imagine the burden on his body. He had already seen the blood overflowing from Xiao Jin's yellow fur. Lu Kuan immediately said, "Xiao Jin, put me down." However, Xiao Jin turned a deaf ear and continued to run with red eyes. It seemed to know that it was a matter of life and death. It was determined to rescue Lu Kuan. Xiao Jin's heart was full of guilt. If it hadn't been competitive and wanted to fight with the ferocious badger with all its strength, the magical ability of the Spirit Ear would not have been activated. It had allowed these two terrifying enemies to easily sneak up on Lu Kuan and almost kill him. In order to make up for its mistakes, even if it had to die, it had to rescue its master, who was both a teacher and a friend. Many years ago, it was a talented little monkey that lived in the Luyang mountain range, near the Lingming mountain range. As it cultivated, it became a level 1 demonic beast. Who knew that at that moment, countless demonic beasts in the mountain range wanted to kill it? It had no choice but to destroy its own demonic aura. If it hadn't been for Lu Kuan, it would still be living carefully in the Luyang mountain range. It wouldn't have been able to cultivate to become a level 1 demonic beast. After having Lu Kuan, the little monkey's life suddenly became exciting. There were all kinds of battles, all kinds of adventures, and it even had 5 human immortal cultivator junior brothers. As the little monkey ran crazily, it recalled all these years. Lu Kuan's dedication to body tempering, his teachings, the various strong enemies they faced together, and the many times they escaped and chased opponents. There was also Zhao Qingtian's intelligence, Shi Chao's growth, Yuxian's shyness, Huang Xiaoyan's slyness, and Pan Yan's foolishness and righteousness. Gradually, the little monkey felt that it was getting weaker and weaker. Its blood vessels seemed to have burst from running for a long time. Just as its consciousness was about to blur, the little monkey found that the man it was hugging had flipped over and landed on the ground, holding it in his arms. Feeling this familiar aura, the little monkey's monkey face revealed a trace of a smile, and it fainted. After Lu Kuan could move his body, he broke free from Xiao Jin's hands and pressed the small little monkey into his arms. His legs suddenly kicked, and he continued to run forward. While running, Lu Kuan quickly used his divine sense to check Xiao Jin's body. He found that Xiao Jin's muscles, bones, and internal organs were all severely damaged. It was obviously caused by the 2 fake Dharma treasures. What made Lu Kuan's heart ache the most was that the blood vessels in Xiao Jin's leg muscles had all burst. Blood flowed out, dyeing the yellow hair red. Fortunately, Lu Kuan sensed that the little monkey's life force was still there. Its life was not in danger for the time being. However, if it dragged on for too long, it would be hard to say. Then, Lu Kuan first put the little monkey into the spirit beast bag. Otherwise, the little guy's blood would be the best tracking mark for the enemy. Then, Lu Kuan looked back. Through his powerful golden-eye divine ability, he vaguely saw the figures of 2 cultivators a mile away, and they were gradually approaching. Sensing the 2 divine senses, one strong and one weak, on his body, Lu Kuan snorted coldly in his heart. You guys are wrong if you think I'm at the end of my rope. In such a dense demonic aura, I can actually escape. When I recover from my injuries, I will definitely kill you guys to avenge Xiao Jin's serious injuries. With this thought in mind, Lu Kuan's muscles suddenly began to contract rhythmically. The nearby demonic aura seemed to be attracted by something and quickly poured into Lu Kuan's body. Chapter 368. Lu Kuan directly used the demon attraction technique that he and Xiao Jin had comprehended outside the Spirit Demon Valley. The demonic aura here was countless times denser than the Spirit Demon Valley. Moreover, in his perception, there was no strange aura in the Spirit Demon Valley. And in his body, apart from some residual magic power in his bones, his muscles were almost empty. Therefore, after he activated the demon luring technique with all his might, the surrounding demonic aura rushed madly into his muscles. The surging speed was many times faster than Lu Kuan's ability to absorb spiritual energy and convert it into lightning elemental mana. As the demonic aura in Lu Kuan's body became abundant, a yellow light similar to Xiao Jin's appeared under his feet. However, it was much weaker than Xiao Jin's. After all, Xiao Jin was using converted demonic spiritual energy, while Lu Kuan was purely relying on the power of demonic aura. Even so, his speed rapidly increased. Although it was still far from his thunder-controlling flying technique, he was still slightly faster than the 2 human cultivators behind him who were struggling to fly in the demonic aura. As time passed, Lu Kuan became more proficient in controlling the demonic aura. After all, he was much stronger than when he was in the Spirit Demon Valley. With the demonic aura in his body, he seemed to have become one with the surrounding demonic aura. His speed continued to increase. Not long after, his figure disappeared for Philosophes and Xiao Hongfei's divine sense. As they chased and fled, they almost crossed half of the demonic aura area in the Demon Spirit Mountain range. In this area, even Xiao Hongfei's divine sense could only cover a range of 2 to 3 miles. Philosophes' eyes flashed with a look of unwillingness. This guy was seriously injured by us, but he still has the strength to escape. If my divine sense is not wrong, this kid is running with his physical body. Is he a demonic beast? His physical body is so terrifying. Xiao Hongfei's eyes flashed with a look of horror. He said, "Fellow Taoist Feng, my divine sense is stronger, and my detection is more accurate. I can clearly feel that he can absorb the demonic aura here into his body. That's why his speed became faster and faster. I'm afraid he had the help of the demonic aura." Philosophes' expression froze. He was stunned for a moment before he said, "I thought it was caused by the demon monkey. I didn't expect it to be him. But isn't this guy a human? How can a human absorb demonic energy into his body?" Xiao Hongfei shook his head and said straightforwardly, "I don't know either. This can only be attributed to his cultivation method." Then Xiao Hongfei frowned and said, "But if the Yang clan has such a powerful cultivation method, why is he the only one who cultivates it? If there are more foundation establishment cultivators like him, or if there is a core formation cultivator who cultivates this cultivation method, it's impossible for the Yang clan to be destroyed by the miraculous gate." Philosophes looked at the disappearing Lu Kuan and refused to give up. "I don't care how powerful his cultivation method is. I must find him." Xiao Hongfei looked at the surrounding environment and said, "Fellow Taoist Feng, there is no trace of spiritual qi here. Our strength is weakened, and the power of our spiritual sense can't be used to its full potential. It is still somewhat dangerous." Feng Lingzi then gritted his teeth and said, "How about this, fellow Taoist Xiao? Help me search for Lu Kuan for another half a year. At that time, regardless of whether we catch Lu Kuan or not, I will still give you a divine accumulation pill." Xiao Hongfei said strangely, "Wouldn't that violate our spiritual sense oath?" Philosophes showed a pained expression and said, "I have 2 spirit accumulation pills. The first one is still in accordance with the previous oath. The second one is the reward for helping me search the western region." Xiao Hongfei thought for a moment and agreed. The spirit accumulation pill was a pill that could temporarily increase the spiritual sense of a core formation cultivator. Of course, the more the better. After all, it took a cultivator 2 years to condense a golden core. The more pills he had, the more confident he would be. There was another reason why he agreed. They were 2 people. If they looked after each other, there would be less danger. Moreover, Philosophes was a rich person. How many talismans did he have? They were the best things to deal with demonic beasts. Although the demonic qi in the western region of the Demon Spirit Mountain was very dense, it was much thinner to the west after leaving the mountain range. The Demon Spirit Island wasn't big. With their speed, they could completely search the entire Demon Spirit Island in half a year. After seeing Xiao Hongfei agree, Philosophes thought for a moment and left the western region. They had used up a lot of magic power to chase and attack. Moreover, the commotion just now might have alarmed some demonic beasts. It was better to leave the Demon Spirit Mountain first and make some preparations. Moreover, Philosophes felt that Lu Kuan would first find a place to heal. Since he could absorb demonic qi, this was a safe place for him to heal. Therefore, it wouldn't be too late to search later. Lu Kuan had already escaped into the depths of the western region of the Demon Spirit Mountain. After discovering that the enemy had disappeared, he tried his best to restrain his aura. He knew very little about the situation of the Demon Spirit Island. However, he faintly felt that there might be demonic beasts in this place with dense demonic qi. After confirming that the enemy wasn't following him, Lu Kuan quickly found a rock cave. He moved a lot of rocks and covered the cave entrance. It would be too obvious if a human cultivator's defensive formation was placed in a place filled with demonic chi. After sealing the cave entrance, Lu Kuan didn't care about the injuries on his body. Instead, he released the little monkey and checked it again. Then, his face revealed a pained expression. "You silly monkey, you're too desperate. You endured the damage of the pseudo-magic treasure and overused your physical strength to escape so far away. Now your body is a mess and your consciousness is in a coma. No, I must find a way to heal you. Otherwise, your injuries will worsen and your life will be in danger." After thinking about this, Lu Kuan lowered his head and fell into deep thought. Last time, when Xiao Jin was injured, he was saved with qi and blood pills. Now, I don't have any more qi and blood pills. Right now, he has lost a lot of blood in his body. He will only become weaker and weaker. What should I do? Through my bloodline, I can clearly sense that it is weak. Bloodline sensing? That's right. Lu Kuan suddenly revealed a surprised expression. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of this? Lu Kuan activated a few strands of magic power deep in his bones. He opened his storage bag and took out a few items. Other than the pseudo-magic treasure, there were a few jade bottles. Through these jade bottles, it could be seen that they contained blood. Luckily, I prepared a lot of my own blood essence to refine the blood marrow powder. Why didn't I think of this before? How can the power of blood in the qi and blood pills be more effective than my own blood essence? My golden giant ape bloodline is the same as Xiao Jin's. It will definitely be effective on him. Thinking of this, Lu Kuan quickly opened a jade bottle and poured the blood essence inside into Xiao Jin's mouth. Then, he carefully sensed it. Sure enough, as he expected, Xiao Jin's injuries began to stabilize as his blood essence was poured in. The remaining demon spiritual force in his body even began to circulate spontaneously. Lu Kuan was overjoyed. He poured another bottle of blood essence into Xiao Jin's mouth. This time, the demon spiritual force in Xiao Jin's body circulated even faster. The nearby demon spiritual force seemed to be attracted by something and quickly poured into Xiao Jin's body. Moreover, it was becoming more and more intense. It even formed a demon spiritual vortex. This scene made Lu Kuan recall the terrifying scene in the spiritual demon valley, where the little monkey crazily absorbed the demon spiritual force. Xiao Jin's injuries should be fine now. Lu Kuan felt Xiao Jin's body rapidly recovering under the nourishment of the demon spiritual force and let out a sigh of relief. However, what he didn't know was that when Xiao Jin formed the demon spiritual vortex, several demon beasts in the western part of the demon spirit mountain range seemed to have sensed it and looked over. Chapter 369. Lu Kuan realized that after Xiao Jin drank his blood essence, he successfully recovered. He also picked up a bottle of blood essence and poured it into his mouth. However, he soon realized that although this was his own blood essence, it could not speed up the recovery of his physical body like the qi and blood pill. It was even more impossible for it to produce such a terrifying effect like Xiao Jin's. Sensing that Xiao Jin was recovering quickly, Lu Kuan could only try to circulate the demonic aura in his muscles to heal the injuries on his muscles. However, he did not dare to circulate the demonic aura into his bones. There were still some thunder attribute dermic powers left in his bones. One had to know that thunder attribute dermic powers had a strong repulsive force against other types of energy. In the land of death, it had a destructive force against the refined corpse energy. In the previous battle with Tian Renjia, Lu Kuan had also escaped from the two blood demons with the help of the thunder attribute dermic powers. Since the thunder attribute dermic powers had a strong repulsive force against the death aura of the refined corpse and the blood-colored dermic powers of the red, refining demonic technique, it might be the same for the demonic aura. At this moment, he was seriously injured and did not dare to take the risk. If the two types of energy collided in his body, he would be injured even more. Under such circumstances, it would be extremely dangerous. Therefore, Lu Kuan only used the demonic aura to repair his physical body and muscles. He had already done this in the spiritual demon valley. However, at that time, his physical body was still at the qi refinement realm. Now, he had already reached the foundation establishment realm. Fortunately, the demonic aura here was very dense. Furthermore, Xiao Jin was next to him. In this narrow cave, the demonic aura was extremely dense and could speed up his recovery. As Lu Kuan's muscles slowly recovered, the blood essence he drank gradually merged into his body and made up for his lost qi and blood. Other than some injuries to the bones and internal organs in his arms, other parts of his body were improving. This scene made Lu Kuan feel a little puzzled. With his current physical body and the bloodline of the giant golden ape, the blood essence he forced out was definitely much stronger than the qi and blood pill. The effect of the blood essence on Xiao Jin was stronger than the qi and blood pill. Why was the effect much smaller on him? Could it be that my blood essence is a great tonic for Xiao Jin? I already have this blood essence, so it doesn't work? Lu Kuan couldn't help but have this thought. This won't do. When I return, I must find a way to obtain a recovery elixir similar to the qi and blood elixir. Otherwise, body cultivators won't be able to use the various healing elixirs of ordinary cultivators. If I were to encounter a situation like today again, it would be really dangerous. He secretly made up his mind that after he got out, he would think of a way to find or refine a healing pill for physique cultivators. If he still couldn't find it in the Abyss market, he could only hoard more of his essence blood, which could more or less speed up his recovery. Just as Lu Kuan was thinking about this, he suddenly opened his eyes. He had been using his divine sense all this time, so he could sense a black demonic beast rapidly approaching from half a kilometer away. Due to the obstruction of the demonic qi, Lu Kuan's divine sense could not see the appearance of the demonic beast, but he could still feel the thick demonic qi on its body. Oh no, there really are other demonic beasts here. When Xiao Jin had this kind of phenomenon in the spiritual demon valley, it attracted a lot of demonic beasts. It won't be the same now, right? Judging from the thick demonic qi on this demonic beast, it is most likely a demonic beast of level 4 or above. Lu Kuan glanced again at Xiao Jin, who was still recovering, with a firm look in his eyes. He first grabbed the last bottle of essence blood on the ground and drank it in one gulp. Then he picked up the 2 meteorite rods on the ground, blasted away the 2 stones blocking the entrance of the cave, and walked out. After he walked out of the cave, he injected the power of his divine sense into his eyes. His eyes bloomed with a trace of golden light as he looked at the black figure in the distance. Through his vision, Lu Kuan could clearly see the demonic beast that was running towards him. He saw that it was an incomparably strong chimpanzee. When it ran, it used both its hands and legs, setting off bursts of demonic wind on the road. From time to time, it exposed its huge chest muscles and thick limbs as it ran, all of which explained to Lu Kuan the strength of the chimpanzee's physical body. Just as Lu Kuan was observing, the chimpanzee had come not far from him. It looked at the cave at the first time. Through the gap of the cave entrance, it saw a yellow-haired little monkey inside. The chimpanzee's long black and red monkey face suddenly showed excitement. Then its huge monkey paws rubbed its eyes and continued to look. It found that the demonic qi around it was madly pouring into the little monkey's body, but from the blood on its hair, the chimpanzee knew that the little monkey had been seriously injured. As if thinking of something, the chimpanzee suddenly turned its head and stared at Lu Kuan, who was standing outside the cave, with a look of hatred in its eyes. The chimpanzee stood up. Its body was 7 or 8 feet tall, and with its thick muscles, even Lu Kuan, who was tall and sturdy among human cultivators, was 1 size smaller than it. Immediately afterward, this monster beast clenched its claws into fists. With a flash of yellow light, its entire fist actually became a size larger. It fiercely hammered its chest muscles that were glowing with yellow light, producing a muffled dong-dong sound similar to that of a drum. When Lu Kuan heard the muffled sound, his qi and blood seemed to be a little unsmooth. Roar! At this moment, the chimpanzee suddenly stomped on the ground and rushed toward Lu Kuan. Its fists, which were twice as big as Lu Kuan's head, blasted toward him. Seeing this, Lu Kuan was not afraid at all. He bent his legs slightly, and the muscles on his naked upper body suddenly expanded. The 2 meteorite rods were crossed in front of him. Seeing this, the chimpanzee's black and red face showed an anthropomorphic look of mockery. In its memory, when human cultivators fought with it, They only dared to attack it from a distance with all kinds of abominable magical artifacts. And they would also use all kinds of talismans to trap it. They were afraid that it would get close to them. But this stupid human cultivator in front of it dared to hold two magical artifacts and try to take its mountain-breaking power head-on with the strength of a human. The chimpanzee simply used all its strength. It wanted to let the human in front of it know that comparing strength with the black mountain apes was purely asking for death. Thinking that this human was about to be smashed into meat paste by its innate fist, the chimpanzee's eyes turned red with excitement and pleasure. Boom! A muffled sound, even more muffled than the one before, was heard. The faint yellow mist around the human and the ape was dispersed by an invisible force. Roar! At this time, there was another roar, full of surprise and disbelief. A small part of Lu Kuan's calf had sunk into the ground. Blue veins bulged on his arms, and the two rods blocked the two huge fists. The fists were separated by the rods, and were only a few inches away from his head. Lu Kuan's face showed a trace of smile. "Haha, big guy. Your strength is at least 60,000 kilograms, but it's still far from enough to crush me." Chapter 370. After pushing the chimpanzee out of the way, Lu Kuan followed it closely, waving his sticks quickly to attack the chimpanzee. But the chimpanzee seemed to be confused by the scene just now. Like a big sandbag, it was beaten back again and again under his wanton attacks. Lu Kuan now had a lot of demon aura in his muscles, so he couldn't activate the power of the meteoric rod in his hand. He could only use it as an ordinary iron rod, and each attack could only exert the strength of his body. Looking at the chimpanzee, who was not hurt, Lu Kuan was a little depressed. The injury on his arm was the most serious. Although it had recovered a little, there was no way to exert the greatest strength. Each attack barely reached 50,000 kilograms. But in the face of such a strength comparable to a level 4 demon beast, the thick-skinned chimpanzee was only beaten back by him, even if it was passively bearing the attack. Looking at the chimpanzee's confused monkey face, Lu Kuan felt inexplicably upset. Yellow light burst out from under his feet again. With the force of a sprint, he hit the chimpanzee on the head with his stick. Howl! As if awakened by this blow, the huge palm of the chimpanzee reached for the front wheel. However, Lu Kuan had long been prepared for the other party's counterattack. He crossed his sticks and blocked the monkey's claws with black hair, which seemed to be able to crush him to death. Boom! Lu Kuan had no leverage under his feet. In the case of a weak force, he was directly hit by the chimpanzee. He fell back a few steps and adjusted his muscles to disperse the force, so he didn't suffer too much damage. Then he continued to look at the chimpanzee, only to find that it had been awakened by the blow of the stick. But after the blow, it didn't attack again. Instead, it looked at him with some confusion and scratched its head from time to time, as if it had found something that puzzled it. Yes, the chimpanzee was indeed very confused. It didn't expect that its previous attack could be blocked by a human cultivator with a weapon. And the later attacks launched by this human being were full of powerful force, which was only a little weaker than its own. But its defense was so strong that it couldn't be broken by attacks weaker than its strength. So except for some discomfort, it was not hurt at all. In addition to the strength of this human being, the chimpanzee was most confused about one thing. In the battle just now, it found the demon aura emerging from this human being. The demon aura was as strong as a level 4 demon beast. Was this human a level 8 demon beast? But a level 8 demon beast could crush it with one finger. Besides, a level 8 demon beast couldn't enter the demon island. All kinds of doubts arose in the chimpanzee's mind. At this moment, the chimpanzee was, as long as I am here, you can't get close to him. The chimpanzee was able to cultivate to the peak of the 4th level demon beast. It had already opened its spiritual cavities and could completely understand the meaning of this human. It looked at the little monkey in the cave and then looked at the human in front of it. Its confused eyes became firm. The chimpanzee roared again and rushed towards the human, its eyes full of killing intent. Lu Kuan looked at the chimpanzee, who continued to attack, and sighed in his heart. He controlled the bottle of essence blood he had just swallowed and poured it into his arms. His arms immediately became twice as thick, almost as thick as the arms of the chimpanzee. With the enhancement of the giant arms technique, Lu Kuan was able to exert a strength of more than 70,000 kilograms, even though he had not fully recovered from his wounds. In this way, he could crush the chimpanzee in front of him. Just as Lu Kuan was about to fight with it, he found that the chimpanzee, who was roaring at the sky and was about to tear him apart, stopped. The chimpanzee stared at his arms that had doubled in size. Then, in Lu Kuan's strange eyes, the demon beast with brute strength suddenly fell to the ground. The chimpanzee's eyes were more complicated than humans. Lu Kuan even saw a trace of tears in them. Woo 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 woo. Then Lu Kuan heard the chimpanzee make all kinds of sounds, as if it wanted to express something. But it was different from Xiao Jin. Lu Kuan couldn't understand a word, and could only stare at this strange demon beast with wide eyes. The chimpanzee seemed to see that Lu Kuan couldn't understand, and immediately stood up. Its huge body began to dance on the spot. This chimpanzee was much bigger than Xiao Jin. Its gestures even created gusts of wind. Lu Kuan looked at the chimpanzee that seemed to be dancing, and there was a faint black line on his forehead. He couldn't help but feel that this chimpanzee was a little stupid in addition to being strange. Although he couldn't understand what this demon beast was trying to say, he could feel that the other party's malice had disappeared. So he took back the giant arms and returned to his original appearance. Woo, woo, the chimpanzee seemed to be even more excited when it saw this. Its palms that were pressing against Lu Kuan's two heads were also scratching the black hair on its head out of anxiety, revealing a distressed expression. Lu Kuan looked at this demon beast and couldn't help but say, "Big guy, I don't understand what you're saying, but you should understand what I'm saying, right?" The chimpanzee hurriedly nodded. Lu Kuan pointed at Xiao Jin in the cave and said, "This little monkey is my partner. I can understand what it says, but it's seriously injured and is now healing. When it recovers, it can relay your words to me." When a chimpanzee heard Lu Kuan's words, it nodded frantically, then sat on the ground and waited, its eyes constantly wandering between Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin. After the chimpanzee had no malice, Lu Kuan found that this demon beast's eyes were full of concern when it looked at Xiao Jin. And at this time, when he looked carefully, he found that this demon beast looked a little familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. After immortal cultivators had divine sense, they basically had the ability to remember everything they saw. Lu Kuan quickly remembered where he had seen it. On the mural of the Abyss auction house, there was a black ape. Then he looked carefully at the chimpanzee in front of him, focusing on its monkey claws that had returned to their original size, and was even more convinced. It should be it. The black ape on the mural used its fist to resist the immortal cultivator's magic weapon. Although this chimpanzee looks stronger, its magical power is also in its monkey claws. At that time, senior brother Zhu Xiaofeng also asked me if this black demon monkey belonged to the same kind as Xiao Jin. Thinking of this, Lu Kuan suddenly understood something. Looking at the chimpanzee's concerned eyes for Xiao Jin, he couldn't help muttering in his heart, "Senior brother Zhu Xiaofeng was right. This stupid chimpanzee is Xiao Jin's kind. Xiao Jin is so clever, and its magical power is in its ears. If it doesn't practice the body refining method, its physical body must be much weaker than this chimpanzee in front of me." Maybe it felt Lu Kuan's speculation. The chimpanzee looked at Lu Kuan and showed him a rather ferocious smile. Chapter 371. Xiao Jin looked at its body blankly. The little monkey vaguely remembered the chaotic situation in its body before it fainted. It even thought that it might die this time, but it didn't expect that when it woke up, most of its injuries had healed. Other than some discomfort in its internal organs, its muscles and blood vessels had basically recovered. And it didn't know if it was an illusion, but it found that the demonic spiritual energy in its body was more abundant than before. Then, the little monkey raised its head to observe and found that it was in a cave. Through its bloodline, it knew that Lu Kuan was outside and that its life was no longer in danger. Thus, Xiao Jin walked out. Woohoo! When the little monkey came out of the cave, it saw a chimpanzee many times its size rushing towards it. Those huge monkey claws could completely match the size of its body. If it was an ordinary Class 2 demonic beast, it would have fled long ago when it saw such a huge class 4 demonic beast. But Xiao Jin had no intention of running away. When it saw the chimpanzee coming over, its first feeling was that this chimpanzee wouldn't hurt it. Sure enough, when the chimpanzee came in front of Xiao Jin, it didn't have any intention of attacking. Instead, it crawled in front of Xiao Jin and stretched out its huge palms. Those bell-like eyes looked at the little monkey expectantly. At first, Xiao Jin still had a doubtful expression, but then it seemed to sense something and happily jumped onto the monkey's paw that was the same size as its body. Squeak! Then, Xiao Jin winked at Lu Kuan and squeaked as if it was ordering the chimpanzee. The chimpanzee carefully placed the little monkey on its thick neck and then ran towards Lu Kuan on all fours. On the chimpanzee's neck, Xiao Jin cheerfully greeted Lu Kuan, as if seeing Lu Kuan in one piece was the happiest thing for it. Lu Kuan was making progress at first, but after seeing the chimpanzee's action, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although he did not understand the meaning of this action, he could still feel the submissive intention in it. When the chimpanzee carried Xiao Jin to Lu Kuan asked, "Xiao Jin, have you recovered from your injuries?" The little monkey nodded and made a simple gesture. Lu Kuan also used his divine sense to examine the little monkey's body and found that most of his injuries had indeed healed. Then, he put on a straight face. He said angrily, "Little fellow, don't overexert your body like this next time. If it wasn't for the abundant demonic chi here and the coincidence, you would have died." The little monkey lowered its head and muttered a few words in its mouth, as if it was still unconvinced. When Lu Kuan heard this, he immediately knew what the little monkey was talking about. Xiao Jin was saying that it had calculated the rich demonic chi here and knew that it could survive. Then, it said that it would be careful in the future. When Lu Kuan saw the little monkey's words, his heart softened, and he did not have the heart to continue educating it. He sighed and said, "This time, I was also wrong. I thought that after killing Tian Renjia, we would be safe. I didn't expect that there would be 2 top cultivators hiding nearby. If I was as cautious as Tian Renjia and set up a defensive array, this situation would not have happened. As long as there was a trace of obstruction from the defensive array, I would be able to take out the meteorite rod and the thunderball fall. Even if my mana is not enough, I can still defend against the attacks of the pseudo-magic treasures. My current physical body is simply unable to take the pseudo-magic treasures head-on." Then, Lu Kuan's expression changed, and he said, "Xiao Jin, in the demonic chi, the other party's spiritual sense is affected. Use your magical powers to investigate. I feel that they are chasing after me with a purpose. They will not let this matter rest." Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin patted its chest with its small hands. At the same time, a faint golden light appeared in its ears. Its meaning could not be more clear. This time, it must grasp the position of the enemy. Huff, huff, huff. At this time, the chimpanzee under Xiao Jin suddenly cried out. Its black face was full of resentment, and its 2 claws slammed on the ground twice. Even if Lu Kuan could not understand the chimpanzee's cries, from its expression and actions, he knew that this big guy wanted to avenge Xiao Jin. Obviously, it had just understood their conversation. Only then did Lu Kuan ask the chimpanzee, "Big guy, now that Xiao Jin is awake, why did you come over? And is Xiao Jin related to you in some way?" Hearing this, the chimpanzee scratched its head and sat down. It made all kinds of woo-woo and huff-huff sounds from its mouth. The rhythm was rhythmic, as if it was telling a very complicated story. Lu Kuan listened to the language that was like a heavenly book and raised his head to look at Xiao Jin. He saw that Xiao Jin had a somewhat nostalgic expression, as if the chimpanzee's description had reminded it of something. After less than an hour, the chimpanzee finally finished telling. At this time, the somewhat confused little monkey began to relay to Lu Kuan. It turned out that Dahe was a powerful demon beast called the Black Mountain Ape. The name Dahe was Xiao Jin's name for this chimpanzee. Dahe's Black Mountain Ape tribe lived on an island in the depths of the sea. It was the only tribe of Black Mountain Apes in the sea, and Dahe was the young chief of this tribe. At the same time, he was also the most talented chimpanzee in the tribe and had awakened a bloodline ability. This bloodline ability was the fist that had doubled in size during the battle with Lu Kuan. Taking advantage of the appearance of the demon island this time, the most powerful elder of this Black Mountain Ape tribe, an old ape that was a level 7 demon beast, used a precious item of the tribe to exchange with other demon beasts for a demon token. This allowed Dahe to come to the demon island and use the dense demon aura here to condense a demon core and become a level 5 demon beast. Because of this, it was very difficult for demon beasts with powerful talent to break through this kind of bottleneck. However, with Dahe's talent, if it became a level 5 demon beast, its strength would definitely increase by leaps and bounds, and it would be enough to protect their tribe. After Dahe entered the demon island, it rushed to the center of the demon's spirit mountain. Before it could cultivate for long, it felt a violent fluctuation of demon aura. That was not all. The most important thing was that in the fluctuation, there was a kind of aura that made its soul tremble. Dahe faintly felt that this aura was definitely that of an ape-type demon beast, and its bloodline was much more powerful than its own. In the last 10,000 years, the lives of ape-type demon beasts have been getting worse and worse, especially the Black Mountain apes, which had even migrated from the inland to the sea. Encountering the aura of its own kind, Dahe would not leave it alone. Therefore, it immediately rushed here. As Dahe got closer and closer to Xiao Jin, it gradually felt the pressure in its bloodline. Dahe became even more excited, which meant that the bloodline of its own kind in front of it was extremely noble. Chapter 372. Dahe had once heard from the old monkey in the clan that the ancient demonic apes were extremely powerful. In ancient times, there was a great demon overseeing every generation. They were the royal family of the demonic apes. Under the leadership of the royal family, the ancient demonic apes could be said to be the overlords of the demon race. How could Dahe not be agitated when facing the ancient demonic apes that could lead them to prosperity? Therefore, when Dahe saw the heavily injured Xiao Jin, he immediately went crazy and directly thought that Lu Kuan was the culprit who injured this ape royal family member. That was why there was a battle at the beginning. Ancient demonic ape bloodline? Demonic ape royal family? When Lu Kuan heard this name, he immediately thought of the giant golden ape that could shake heaven and earth and uproot mountains and rivers. Then, Lu Kuan thought of the scene where the chimpanzee immediately prostrated after seeing his giant arm ability. He asked, Dahe, did you also feel the ancient demonic ape bloodline in my body? Then, he saw the chimpanzee show a very fearful expression. He nodded and whimpered again. Xiao Jin directly explained to the side. Lu Kuan said to himself, you're saying that after I used the giant arm ability, the ancient demonic ape bloodline in my body appeared, and it's even denser than Xiao Jin's. He continued to ask, Dahe, do you know what kind of demonic ape bloodline Xiao Jin and I belong to? Dahe scratched his head a little embarrassedly and whimpered a few times. Squeak, squeak. Lu Kuan shook his head with some regret. So you don't know what kind of demonic beast bloodline it is. But I finally know a little about the origin of the bloodline. By the way, Xiao Jin, what level of demonic beast is the great demon that you mentioned before? Squeak, squeak. After breaking through the level of a level 10 demonic beast, it's a great demon. It's equivalent to a human immortal cultivator above the soul formation stage. At this moment, Xiao Jin's ears twitched, and he immediately cried out with an angry expression. You said that the enemy who ambushed us is now more than 10 li away. Lu Kuan lowered his head and pondered for a moment. Then he raised his head and said, Dahe, let's talk about our bloodline later. Right now, we have to deal with the two enemies who ambushed us. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The chimpanzee immediately stood up in excitement and hammered its chest with its huge fists, almost throwing Xiao Jin off its neck. Its ferocious expression made it seem as if the person who was hurt was the person closest to it. Lu Kuan said in a deep voice, Dahe, don't get too excited. Those two are not weak. They were able to follow me closely even after I was chasing after Tianrenjia. This means that they have a way to track me. Then he asked Xiao Jin, Xiao Jin, are they coming directly in my direction? Xiao Jin sensed again and shook his head. He even gestured the situation between the two of them. The chimpanzee at the side saw that the little monkey could hear the enemy's movements from so far away, and its expression became even more respectful. In its heart, only the ancient demonic ape bloodline could have such a miraculous ability. If Dahe knew that Xiao Jin could hear Lu Kuan's technique with his spirit ears, who knew what expression Dahe would have? After listening to Xiao Jin's description, Lu Kuan's eyes lit up. You said that these two people are slowly searching in the periphery. Haha, that means that this demonic aura can block their tracking methods. In addition, the range of their divine senses is not large. This is our chance for revenge. Then, Lu Kuan turned to Dahe and asked, Dahe, since the demon race also has so many demon tokens, does that mean that in this mountain range filled with demonic aura, there are many other demon beasts besides you? The chimpanzee felt that Lu Kuan's question was very strange, but it still nodded. Lu Kuan chuckled. That laughter made Dahe tremble unconsciously. Then, he heard the human with the powerful ancient demonic ape bloodline say, Dahe, are there any demon beasts here that you have a grudge against that you can't beat? Hoo-hoo. Hearing this, the chimpanzee's eyes immediately turned red. It cried out angrily. This made Lu Kuan unconsciously wipe away his cold sweat. He thought to himself, no wonder the Black Mountain apes are declining. With such impulsive and belligerent temperaments, it's already good that there is still one tribe left. In Lu Kuan's mind, the scene of a group of chimpanzees fighting recklessly as soon as they were provoked by other demon beasts appeared. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin did not imagine the scene in Lu Kuan's mind. Instead, he explained to him what Dahe had said. After hearing this, Lu Kuan nodded and said, Dahe, do you want to make your opponents lose face? At the same time, you can kill the two immortal cultivators who injured us. Hoo-hoo. Squeak, squeak. Okay, then you will listen to Xiao Jin's instructions. Xiao Jin, I'll tell you the plan. It's very simple. After a quarter of an hour, the chimpanzee, whose face was full of confusion, carried an excited Xiao Jin and ran in a direction. On the other hand, Lu Kuan returned to the cave, where Xiao Jin was recuperating. He circulated the remaining dermic powers in his bones and opened his storage bag again. He set up an isolation array and a defensive array near the cave. With Xiao Jin's delay, the two enemies would not be able to find him in a short period of time. Then, he could set up the array. Although he knew from Dahe that there were no demon beasts nearby, it was still better to be cautious. After all, Lu Kuan's carelessness had almost caused him and Xiao Jin to die. After setting up the array, Lu Kuan frantically circulated the demon aura in his body to heal the injuries on his external muscles. As for the demon luring technique, he did not continue to use it. He wanted to use up all the demon aura in his body now. Next, he would use spirit stones to recover the thunder dermic powers in his body. After all, only with dermic powers could he unleash the full power of the body cultivation pseudo-dermic treasures. What he had just instructed Xiao Jin was not only to deplete the enemy's strength, but also to buy time. This was because when he had used his arms to block the pseudo-dermic treasure, the wind element pseudo-dermic treasure had cut open the fascia of his arms. That position happened to be where he had engraved the spirit controlling array. Therefore, he had to wait for 2 days, when his spirit root appeared, before he could fight with his full strength against the enemy. At this moment, Lu Kuan's physical strength was much stronger than before. The demon aura used up very quickly to heal his body. In just a little more than 2 hours, it had been completely depleted. Then, Lu Kuan looked at his recovered arm and sighed. I originally thought that there would not be any problems if the spirit-controlling array was engraved deep in the fascia. Who knew that I would actually receive the pseudo-dermic treasure with my bare hands? The array in the fascia was still destroyed. Then, he said with some lingering fear, if not for the appearance of the 5-colored halo at the last moment, my arm might not have been severed, but my bones would definitely have been severely damaged. Fortunately, I obtained enough blood-clotting grass from Tian Renjia and the rest. I can engrave it again later. After muttering for a while, Lu Kuan took out the last 2 spirit-controlling armor from his storage bag and put them on his arms. Although his legs were also engraved with the spirit-controlling array, only his arms had the thunder seal. His legs could not convert the thunderdermic powers. Chapter 373. In the Demon Spirit Mountains, in the periphery of the western region overflowing with demonic aura, there were two looming figures floating. If one didn't have a divine sense above the great circle of Foundation establishment, it was almost impossible to find them. These two figures were Philostikes and Xiao Hongfei, who had re-entered the demonic aura area and were trying to find Lu Kuan. With Philostikes around, they had all kinds of talismans. They didn't lack anything and directly used an intermediate high-level invisibility talisman, hiding their figures. This invisibility talisman, it was much worse than the one that had ambushed Lu Kuan before, but in such a place with dense demonic aura, it could still play a huge role. Before a demonic beast entered the 5th level and condensed a monster core, it would not produce divine sense, but a peak level 4 demonic beast spiritual sense was quite terrifying. Philostikes and the others used this talisman. After that, they could reduce their fluctuations to the lowest level without disturbing the peak level 4 demonic beast, and then use Xiao Hongfei's powerful divine sense to carefully explore. Philostikes was willing to spend another divine accumulation pill because of Xiao Hongfei's divine sense exploration. With a little more time, he could completely explore this area. As for whether Lu Kuan would escape from this area, he deliberately used the white spirit mouse to sense outside the demonic aura several times, and did not find any new aura of thunder attribute magic power in the area outside the demonic aura. This meant that Lu Kuan was still healing in the demonic aura area. Not only Philostikes, but Xiao Hongfei was also very sure that this powerful and strange cultivator was busy healing. Because when they were outside the Demon Spirit Mountains, they had perceived the terrifying fluctuations when Lu Kuan killed Tian Renjia. In their minds, for an early Foundation establishment cultivator to unleash such a powerful attack, no matter how powerful his cultivation technique was, the price he had to pay was definitely not low. They even believed that Lu Kuan had overdrawn his lifespan. Afterwards, this guy had used his body to block the attacks of the two people's pseudo-magical weapons. If it was an ordinary Class 4 monstrous beast that had been ambushed by them, it would have already been seriously injured and collapsed. How could it have escaped? This showed that Lu Kuan had once again paid a heavy price. Considering the above points, since Lu Kuan did not leave the demonic aura area, it meant that he must be recuperating somewhere. Moreover, it would take a long time for him to recover from such a serious injury. Unfortunately, what the two of them didn't know was that what seemed like a terrifying injury to Lu Kuan was actually just a bit of a nuisance. It would only take him 2 days to fully recover. Even the demon monkey that they didn't take seriously had mostly recovered in just half a day. It took the two of them a full day to search this area, and they only managed to go 10 miles deep into this area. Within 10 miles of this area, apart from the 2 peak level, 4 demonic beasts that were absorbing demonic aura, they didn't find Lu Kuan. As for the 2 Class 4 demon beasts, they didn't try to kill them. In this demonic aura area, even if it was a 2-on-1 sneak attack, they didn't have the confidence to kill them in a short time. If they were to fight and startle other demon beasts, or awaken Lu Kuan, who was in the middle of recuperating, then the gains wouldn't make up for the losses. The next day, Xiao Hongfei, who was carefully exploring with his spiritual sense, suddenly stopped and raised his head to look at the depths of this demonic aura forest. Fellow Taoist Xiao, did you find something? Philostikes' expression changed, and he immediately asked. Xiao Hongfei said with some doubt, "Just now, at the limit of my spiritual sense, there was a yellow demon monkey that flashed by. It should be a demon beast that used a demon token to enter the demon island. As long as it isn't too close to us, we don't need to pay attention to it," Philostikes said casually. Xiao Hongfei didn't answer and continued to close his eyes to sense. After a while, he opened his eyes again and said with a solemn expression, "No, this demon monkey isn't a peak Class 4 demon beast. It's a Class 2 demon beast." Philostikes' expression changed, and he said with some disbelief, "It can't be Lu Kuan's demon monkey, can it?" Xiao Hongfei said in a deep voice, "It's most likely him. Although this demon monkey has shrunk a lot, I can still remember its aura. Moreover, there's that pair of strange sticks on its back that blocked our pseudo-magic treasures. It can't be. I remember that it was seriously injured before, right? It was bleeding all the way. If Lu Kuan had put it into the spirit beast pouch, I'm afraid it would have been seriously injured and died. Xiao Hongfei said, this demon monkey's aura is still somewhat weak, but it definitely has nothing to do with being seriously injured. Philostikes had a flash of inspiration and said, no matter what method this demon monkey used to escape from being seriously injured, since it has appeared, then Lu Kuan can't be too far away. Maybe it's protecting Lu Kuan. Let's go over. With its Class 2 Demon B spiritual sense, it won't discover us. After saying that, Philostikes activated his transcendence energy and flew in the direction Xiao Hongfei was looking at. However, he found that Xiao Hongfei didn't move at all. He asked curiously, Daoist Xiao? Xiao Hongfei frowned and said, that's strange. I keep feeling that something is wrong. It's as if we've overlooked something. Upon hearing this, Philostikes was also stunned. He lowered his head and pondered. After hearing Xiao Hongfei's words, he also felt that something was wrong. It was as if they had really overlooked something. That monkey has appeared again. It seems to have a jade bottle in its hand. Xiao Hongfei discovered the demon monkey again. Philostikes shook his head and said, forget it. Let's follow it. Even if we can't find Lu Kuan, we can still take down this little monkey. So that we won't be disturbed by this demon monkey and have Lu Kuan escape again. Xiao Hongfei nodded. After all, he was hired by Philostikes. Since Philostikes said so, he agreed. Both of them were powerful figures in the great circle of Foundation establishment. One of them had extremely pure mana, while the other was proficient in the art of ventilation. Both of them could fly. With the help of the art of invisibility, they silently drifted towards the demon monkey that they sensed. Gradually, Xiao Hongfei and Philostikes discovered that this little monkey's speed was very fast. It had a clear destination. Looking at its expression, it seemed to be in a hurry. It probably wanted to deliver the item in its hand to a certain place. This certain place was very likely the place where Lu Kuan was in seclusion. Unknowingly, they followed this little monkey for about 10 miles. Just as they were feeling a little puzzled, the little monkey accelerated and scuttled into a bamboo forest that was filled with dense demon qi. Not long after, Xiao Hongfei and Philostikes also entered the forest. The two of them were focused on the demon monkey in front of them. However, their consciousness also lingered around them. After carefully inspecting the bamboo forest, they did not discover the existence of any demon beasts. But just as they were about to leave the bamboo forest, a green light suddenly shot out from a pillar. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot toward Xiao Hongfei's neck. Xiao Hongfei's consciousness was, after all, strong. In a flash, he put up a faint golden shield. By the time Philostikes noticed it, the green light had already easily broken through Xiao Hongfei's thick mana shield. It was about to pierce through his neck. Oof. Xiao Hongfei coldly snorted. He did not panic when the green light broke through his mana shield. The thick golden chain around his neck flew up and turned into a Vajra ring. It quickly shot out a golden light. This green light was also somewhat exhausted. It was directly sent flying by the golden light. However, it made a turn in the air and disappeared into the bamboo forest. Xiao Hongfei did not say anything. He sped up and flew forward. Philostikes also discovered the true identity of the green light. His face turned pale, and he followed closely behind Xiao Hongfei. Chapter 374. Philostikes wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, that green light just now couldn't be the green bamboo snake, right? Xiao Hongfei's expression was also a bit unsightly. What else could it be if not the green bamboo snake? To be able to easily shatter my mana barrier, it should be a peak level 4 beast. If I didn't place the main ring of my Vajra ring on my neck, I'm afraid I would have already died. Philostikes unconsciously shrunk his neck. His spiritual sense and mana were a level lower than Xiao Hongfei's. His battle prowess was only at the level of pseudo-magic treasures and talismans. Above that, In an environment filled with demonic aura, facing a demonic beast with such explosive power and strong concealment abilities was basically a dead end. Could it be that the monkey purposely led us through this bamboo forest and wanted to use this green bamboo snake to kill us? Xiao Hongfei frowned. I'm not sure either, but even if there's no demonic aura here, the green bamboo snake will be very hard to detect by spiritual sense in the bamboo forest. Moreover, it's very sensitive to mana. It's reasonable for it to ambush us. As for this little monkey, I don't believe that a mere level 2 demonic beast spiritual sense can detect my core formation level spiritual sense. Philosophes saw Xiao Hongfei's confidence and nodded. Then, 2 shining talismans appeared in his hands. He said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, this is the Origin Shield Technique talisman. Take it. Even if we encounter a sneak attack from such a demonic beast next time, with the Origin Shield Technique's defense, we can quickly counterattack." Xiao Hongfei nodded. He did not try to be pretentious, and he took out this defensive talisman that was extremely precious in the outside world. The Origin Shield Technique could completely block a full force attack from a Great Circle Foundation establishment cultivator. In addition to his defensive barrier, if he were to encounter such a powerful attack again, he would be able to defend against it. As long as he could block the first attack, he would be able to let the demon beasts here know of his, Xiao Hongfei's, strength. Many thanks, fellow Taoist foam. Let's continue tracking. That demonic monkey runs very fast and has disappeared again. Philosophes nodded and continued to chase after the little monkey with Xiao Hongfei. After an unknown amount of time, outside a cave in the Demon's Spirit Mountain range, a ruddy-faced Lu Kuan opened his eyes. He squeezed his hands and crushed the spirit stone that had lost its spirit chi. Then he stood up. His body. SSS bodies. SSSSS. SSSSSSSS. His SSSS his of SS. His. He. TSS. T have TSSS right. TSS. S's. TS. SSS. SSS to TS's. S's. S's. I can be considered to have touched the threshold of the middle stage of Foundation establishment. If the surrounding spiritual energy was surging violently when I was recuperating, there might be even more mana seeping into my bone marrow cavity. After muttering to himself for a while, Lu Kuan restrained the spiritual power fluctuations in his body. He collected all the arrays at the entrance of the cave and closed his eyes to sense. That should be the cave of Dahei's enemy, the peak class 4 sea bear. TSK. This sea bear's strength is even greater than Dahei's. Its frontal strength is at least 60,000 gene, which is almost the same as mine. On top of that, he has a strong defense and the help of Yao Qi. Those 2 fellows won't have it easy. Then, Lu Kuan's feet flashed as he dashed towards Xiao Jin's location. Xiao Jin, whom Lu Kuan spoke of, was currently on top of a small hill filled with dense Yao Qi. He had an excited expression on his face and was squeaking nonstop. Beside the little monkey was a gigantic chimpanzee, Dahei. Dahei listened to Xiao Jin's description, and his bell-sized eyes revealed a very satisfied expression. Looking at the surging Yao Qi on another small hill in the distance, he even let out an excited roar. At the same time, under the small hill filled with Yao Qi, there was a cave. The cave's entrance was very big, about 10 feet high. An incomparably strong white bear stood at the entrance of the cave. Its huge body completely blocked the entrance of the cave. The white bear kept roaring angrily, and its paws slapped a few magic tools that looked like Vajra rings. At the same time, there were also a few wind attribute magic attacks that weren't fast. The white bear's movements weren't fast, and it didn't use its paws to catch them, allowing them to hit the white fur on its body. Fellow Taoist Xiao, this sea bear isn't simple. My wind attribute magic actually can't break through its defense. We have to use a pseudo-magic treasure. Otherwise, if a few more Yao beasts of the same level come, we'll be in danger. The one who spoke was Philosophes. He took out 2 talismans and threw them to the entrance of the cave. With an ugly expression, he said, "That Lu Kuan is too cunning." When did he come to this cave? He even set up a human's defensive array inside and outside the cave. Coupled with the Yao monkey's seduction, he lured us in. I don't know how Lu Kuan lured this sea bear away, and it just so happened to return at this time. Philosophes thought that this trap was set up by Lu Kuan, and that the little monkey was only there to lure them in. Unfortunately, he didn't expect that Xiao Jin's Yao spiritual power could also set up an array. Xiao Hongfei cast a spell, and the 4 Vajra rings temporarily fused into one. Together with Philosophes' magic, he continued to attack the sea bear. He said, "What we missed before was how Lu Kuan tracked down Tian Renjia. Now we can be sure that he also has a powerful tracking technique. It's not inferior to fellow Taoist's white spirit mouse, so he was able to determine our location. Just now, I vaguely sensed that the little monkey's aura stopped 2 to 3 miles away from us. There seemed to be a Yao Qi beside it." Philosophes said, "That must be Lu Kuan and the Yao monkey. They want to take advantage of the fact that we and the sea bear are both injured and waiting for an opportunity to strike." Following which, an idea flashed through his mind, and he continued, "This is also our chance. Lu Kuan is busy setting up the trap, and didn't even have time to recuperate for the past 2 days. His strength isn't at its peak. We won't tangle with the sea bear. With the help of our pseudo-transcendent treasures, we'll move at full speed and catch him off guard." Xiao Hongfei nodded and said, "I think so too. Fellow Taoist Feng, I just used my divine perception to scan the area. The mountain in the southeast corner of the cave is very weak. Let's use our pseudo-transcendent treasures to shatter it. Then, we'll use our pseudo-transcendent treasures to fly out. All right, the collapse of this small mountain can also obstruct the sea bear." As he finished speaking, the Vajra chakram around Xiao Hongfei's neck flew out and fused with the Vajra chakram used to attack the sea bear. This was a combination of 5 grade 3 spiritual immortal treasures. Its power was completely comparable to a pseudo-transcendent treasure. This thick Vajra chakram and Philosophes' scimitar blasted towards the southeast corner together. The earth quaked and the mountain shook. The power of the 2 pseudo-transcendent treasures directly shattered the supporting point of the cave. The cave, along with the small mountain outside, collapsed in an instant. Seeing this, the sea bear decisively ran out. Although its skin was rough and its flesh was thick, it couldn't withstand the weight of this small mountain. Chapter 375. Even in the dense demonic qi, Xiao Hongfei's speed was much faster than in the spiritual qi region by relying on the power of the pseudo-magic treasures. Fortunately, it was the 2 of them. If it were other Peak Foundation establishment cultivators, even if they had pseudo-magic treasures, they wouldn't be able to use such a powerful escape technique. This was because ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't fly at all. If they couldn't fly, they couldn't use pseudo-magic treasures to increase their speed. This escape technique that used pseudo-magic treasures to increase speed was derived from magic treasures used by core formation cultivators. Some of the larger sects had records of such magic treasures. Although Xiao Hongfei was currently a loose cultivator, whether it was knowledge or secret techniques, he wasn't inferior to any of the core disciples of the 10 great sects. He understood this secret technique by heart, but it consumed a lot of magic power. If it weren't for the fact that the 2 of them were only 2 to 3 kilometers away from the little monkey and wanted to catch them off guard, they wouldn't have used such a magic power-consuming escape technique in an area filled with demonic qi. Damn it, it's not Lu Kuan, it's actually a black mountain ape. As the 2 of them approached, Xiao Hongfei's spiritual sense immediately discovered that besides the little monkey, there was another figure filled with demonic qi. It was an incomparably strong black gorilla. Their expressions were filled with astonishment, as if they couldn't understand Xiao Hongfei's and the little monkey's speed. Xiao Hongfei's expression darkened when he saw this scene. He said, "Fellow Taoist Feng, it seems we've been fooled. This black mountain ape and the little monkey are both demonic apes. It's very likely that they're familiar with each other, or perhaps they're both Lu Kuan's demonic beasts." Xiao Hongfei was somewhat puzzled. Isn't this Lu Kuan a surviving disciple of the Yang clan? Could it be that he's also proficient in beast taming? How could he subdue a black mountain ape in the outer seas so quickly? Philosophes said coldly, "Fellow Taoist Shao, let's not care about that." Judging from their expressions, they didn't expect us to come out of the cave so quickly. They also didn't know that we could move so quickly in the demonic aura. Let's just kill them with all our might. The black mountain apes are much weaker than the sea bears. Besides, we're not in the cave, so we have enough space to fly around. We can do whatever we want. Destroy them and break Lu Kuan's arm. Xiao Hongfei nodded. He knew that Philosophes was right. They had to take advantage of this opportunity to kill them. Otherwise, the two of them would be caught in Lu Kuan's calculations and would be in a passive position. It's no wonder that my fellow disciples were so terrified when they heard about the reputation of the two heroes of Crafting Peak back then. I didn't expect that after all these years of cultivation, Lu Kuan would be even more difficult to deal with than I imagined. Oh no, they're escaping. Perhaps sensing the ferocity of Xiao Hongfei's group, the two monster apes, one big and one small, quickly ran down the mountain. Xiao Hongfei and Philosophes snorted coldly at the same time. If they were traveling at the same speed as before, the two of them might not have been able to catch up with the two monster apes who were like fish in water in the demonic aura. But for now, it was just a matter of consuming a little more magic power. As expected, the two monster apes had just escaped into the forest below the small mountain when Xiao Hongfei and the others were already within 20 feet of them. Roar! As if realizing that it couldn't escape, the black mountain ape turned around and protected the little monkey behind it. It raised its head to the sky and roared angrily, standing up on its hind legs. The black-furred palms suddenly expanded to the size of a cattail leaf fan. An extremely powerful aura was emitted from the pair of gigantic hands. Innate divine ability? After all, Philosophes was a cultivator born and raised in the Chu country. He immediately recognized that the Black Mountain ape had awakened its innate divine ability. Xiao Hongfei said, with an indifferent expression, "Even with the enhancement of this divine ability, it won't be able to withstand the second wave of attacks from our pseudo-magic treasures." Then he said to Philosophes, "Fellow Taoist foe, we've consumed a lot of magic power. Let's end this battle as soon as possible. I'm afraid that other powerful monster beasts will rush over." As he spoke, his traveling light slowed down. The thick and solid Vajra ring flashed out from his traveling light. At the same time, Philosophes also stopped his traveling light. The scimitar that was flashing with a dark green radiance made a screeching sound and turned into a gigantic windblade. The two powerful pseudo-magic treasures attacked the Black Mountain ape with terrifying power. Xiao Hongfei and the others knew very well that only by killing this peak class 4 monster beast first would they be able to end this battle as soon as possible. Although the power of their pseudo-magic treasures was weaker in the monster aura, it was still not something that a mere Black Mountain ape could resist. Just as the two of them controlled the pseudo-magic treasures to attack at the same time, the little monkey, who was standing behind the Black Mountain ape, suddenly showed a strange smile. If Xiao Hongfei and the others saw this smile, they would definitely turn around and leave. Unfortunately, Xiao Jin was hiding behind the thick monster aura of the Black Mountain ape. Even Xiao Hongfei did not notice it for a while. As Xiao Jin smiled, he stretched out his hands and grabbed the pair of wishful meteoric iron rods. Then, he clasped his hands together. With a click, the two wishful meteoric iron rods had combined into a silver-black long rod. Under the control of Xiao Jin's telekinesis technique, it flew to Dahei's thick hands. Under the astonished eyes of Xiao Hongfei and Philosophes, the long rod became several times thicker. Its thickness was just right for the Black Mountain ape's fan-sized monkey claws to hold it. The Black Mountain ape that was over 10 feet tall combined with the giant staff that was like a pillar that held up the heavens. In an instant, a ferocious aura surged out. Roar! There was a loud noise, accompanied by the excited roar of a monster. The two pseudo-magic treasures collided with Dahei, who was holding the wishful meteoric iron rods. For a moment, sand and stones flew and the monster aura surged. The surrounding trees that were nourished by the monster aura were shaken by the aftershock of this attack. They fell and stirred up a lot of dust. The little monkey, who was hiding behind Dahe, felt the power and its face turn pale. It subconsciously touched its aching internal organs. Xiao Jin could not imagine that it had withstood this attack with the help of the wishful, meteoric iron rods. Soon, the dust and the monster aura dispersed, revealing Dahe's intact figure and the giant rod shining with silver light. Impossible. Looking at the Black Mountain ape looking at them with excitement, Xiao Hongfei and Philostikes were in disbelief. It was not only because the peak of the 4th level monster was intact and had blocked the joint attack of their pseudo-magic treasures. It was also because in the process of the battle, just now, through the pseudo-magic treasures, they perceived that the silver-white giant rod held in the hands of the Black Mountain ape actually had the aura of monster spiritual power. This rod is a magic weapon? How can a monster use it? Xiao Hongfei looked at the shining silver rod and said in disbelief, "No, it can withstand our pseudo-magic weapons without being damaged. This rod is most likely a pseudo-magic weapon." Philostikes looked at the giant rod held in the hands of the Black Mountain ape, and his eyes widened. A pseudo-magic weapon that can be used by a monster? Could this be the top refining technique of the Yang clan? When Philostikes heard this, he also remembered the situation where the little monkey had blocked their attack with the 2 rods on its back. His heart, which had originally wanted to retreat, became firm again. Chapter 376. Compared to Xiao Hongfei and Li Tianlan's surprise, Dahe was extremely excited at this time. It used its physical brute force, its giant claws, and this strange weapon to take the attack of the 2 pseudo-magic treasures head-on without suffering any damage. Moreover, the feeling of releasing all its strength made Dahe's whole body float. If it could speak, its first sentence would definitely be the word awesome. At the same time, Dahe's admiration for Xiao Jin behind it increased, because not long after they left Lu Kun, Xiao Jin told it that the pair of small sticks could increase its attack power and truly exert its strength. Dahe did not believe it at all. In the end, due to Xiao Jin's tyrannical bloodline, it had to give in and agree to let Xiao Jin try it. As a result, the 2 long sticks that were thicker than its fingers actually became several times larger under Xiao Jin's urging and were held in its hands. Then, under Xiao Jin's guidance, its demonic spiritual power could even be poured into the giant sticks, increasing its attack power by a lot. Squeak! Squeak! Dahe, who was laughing foolishly, heard this cry and woke up. Looking at the 2 human cultivators in front of it with different expressions, it roared and held the combined wishful meteoric iron staff and attacked the 2 human cultivators in front of it. "Evil beast, you dare to take the initiative to attack." Just as Xiao Hongfei and Philostikes were surprised, the Black Mountain ape quickly rushed over and smashed the 2 of them with a thick giant stick in its hand with a powerful force. Although Philostikes and Li Tianlan had pseudo-magic treasures around them, they could not figure out the details of the stick and did not take it head-on. Instead, they quickly scattered in all directions. This was the advantage of being able to fly in the air. If an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator were to fight on the ground, they would not be able to summon a flying magic treasure in time. Then, if they wanted to move, they could only rely on methods, such as the light body talisman, and rely on their legs to move. Xiao Hongfei and Li Tianlan, on the other hand, could move in the air and quickly dodge when they encountered a powerful attack. Boom! Big Black's attack seemed to be extremely powerful. It was not weaker than the powerful attack of an ordinary pseudo-magic treasure. It directly hit the ground. Under the support of Big Black's power and demon spiritual force, a large hole appeared on the ground. When Dahe found that the 2 enemies were as slippery as demonic fish in the water, its bell-like eyes showed some anger and unwillingness. It targeted Xiao Hongfei, who was closest to it, and rushed over. Seeing this, Fenglingzi did not go to help Xiao Hongfei. Instead, he turned to look at Little Monkey, who was closer to him. Without the protection of the Black Mountain ape, Little Monkey was completely exposed to him. "Dahe, hey," Dahe said, Taoist and Li Tianlan. Without waiting for Xiao Hongfei's reply, the Philostikes poured magic power into the scimitar in front of him. The scimitar glowed with a green light and attacked the little monkey. The little monkey stared at the Philostikis. Seeing the pseudo-magic treasure attack, it showed some fear on its face. A yellow light flashed under its feet, and it quickly retreated. In a few breaths, the little monkey had already appeared outside the forest. Philostikis gritted his teeth and waved his hand at the green scimitar. Borrowing the power of the pseudo-magic treasure, the green light on his body shone brightly, and he quickly chased after the little monkey. Umph! That strange pair of rods is not on the little monkey. Moreover, its aura is relatively weak. I only need to use a few talismans to kill it. But what kind of magic is that yellow light? This little guy is so fast? Philostikis' expression was a little hesitant. Then, he shook his head. Forget it. I'll use more magic power and kill it quickly. Otherwise, this guy will lure us to another place. Philostikis thought of the bamboo forest where the little monkey lured them to, which led to them being ambushed by the green bamboo snakes. He simply ignored the consumption of his magic power and rushed forward. Roar! After realizing that the Philostikis had turned to attack Xiao Jin, the Dahe's eyes revealed panic and regret. It stomped on the ground with its thick legs and turned around, intending to save Xiao Jin. However, at this moment, a huge Vajra ring blocked its path and smashed towards it. Feeling the powerful attack of this human cultivator, the Dahe had to tighten its grip on the giant rod in its hand to block the attack. Then, various magic weapons clashed in the forest, and the roar of the Black Mountain Ape could be heard. If the Dahe did not have the help of the wishful meteoric iron staff, it would not be a match for Xiao Hongfei, even in such a place with dense demonic qi. However, the Dahe had this giant rod that could block the opponent's pseudo-magic treasure. Coupled with the home advantage, it was difficult to tell who would win in the battle against Xiao Hongfei. On the other side, Philostikis had only flown 2 miles before catching up with the little monkey. At this time, the little monkey's face was bloodshot. Its aura was weak. Seeing that it could not escape, it sat on the ground and sighed. Haha, I knew it. This kind of magic can't be used recklessly. Little guy, you've fooled us for so long. Now, it's time for you to die. Philostikis saw that the little monkey was not using the yellow light magic and its current appearance and understood something. He put away the talisman in his hand. Putting it away, he still activated the green scimitar in his hand. He decided to use this pseudo-magic treasure to kill this monkey demon with strange magical powers. After all, from the previous situation, this little monkey's defensive power was just as strong. Now, what's that sound? Just as Philostikis' cyan machete flew out, he suddenly heard an ear-piercing friction sound, as if something was flying quickly. Then, he saw a flashing thunderball about the size of a watermelon flying out of the dense demonic qi fog not far away. It was extremely fast, and the ear-piercing friction sound came from this thunderball. Lu Kuan, Philostikis exclaimed when he felt the thunder attribute magic on this thunderball. At this moment, the watermelon-sized thunderball blasted on his cyan machete. At this moment, Philostikis finally felt the feeling that his junior apprentice sister, the Fire Lady, had described. This power was even stronger than the sea bear he had fought before. Fortunately, he had used a pseudo-magic treasure. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for him to block it with other defensive magic treasures. Philostikis realized that the watermelon-sized thunderball seemed to be evenly matched with his pseudo-magic treasure. Then, it returned very spiritually. He could not help but look carefully in the direction of the thunderball. He saw an abnormally strong figure in the demonic qi fog not far away. This tall and sturdy man smiled at Philostikis, revealing his white teeth. Lu Kuan, this is impossible. How can your injuries heal so quickly? Philostikis' expression changed when he saw this man who had a strong aura and did not seem weak at all. Then, he recalled his cyan machete and his body shone with a green light. He planned to use the pseudo-magic treasure's escape light to escape. Philostikis had seen Lu Kuan's powerful attack power. He did not have enough magic power now, and the demonic qi was all around him. Moreover, Xiao Hongfei was temporarily separated from him. Everything was in his opponent's hands. Chapter 377. Lu Kuan looked at the panic-stricken Philostikis not far away. Golden light flashed in his eyes as he realized that more than half of the magic power in his body had been consumed. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. With a flash of light, 2 meteoric thunder rods appeared in his hands. He quickly clasped his hands together. With a cracking sound, the meteoric thunder rods merged into one, turning into a long silver rod that was embellished with purplish black light. At the same time, Lu Kuan's arms and the long silver rod expanded at the same time, becoming several times thicker. A powerful and barbaric aura spread out from him. Dahe, who was fighting with Xiao Hongfei in the distant grove, immediately sensed the terrifying aura of the ancient demonic ape bloodline contained in this aura. He immediately knew that Lu Kuan had arrived and was completely relieved of his worries about the little monkey. Philostikis, who was just about to activate his escape light, sensed this aura and instantly smelled the scent of death. His face turned fierce as he channeled all the magic power in his body into his pseudo-magic treasure. At the same time, he activated a mid-grade, top-grade Yuan Shield spell talisman. He activated it. Immediately, a pale white barrier enveloped Philostikis. With the help of the pseudo-magic treasure, Philostikis transformed into a greenish-white escape light and shot towards a grove where Xiao Hongfei was. At the same time, Lu Kuan had already raised the giant rod in his hand. He activated all the strength in his body and smashed it towards the thunderball that was waiting to be unleashed. An even more ear-piercing sound of air exploding could be heard. The thunderball caught up with Philostikis' escape light in the blink of an eye like a bolt of lightning. Philostikis was, after all, a Foundation Establishment senior brother of the Heavenly Talisman sect, one of the top 10 sects in the Chu Kingdom. He had experienced countless battles. Under such a disadvantageous situation, he relied on his extraordinary cultivation base to forcefully change the direction of his escape light. The purple lightning ball brushed past the white shield. This lightning ball was at least 50% stronger than the previous strike. With the support of the giant arm god art, this strike contained more than 50,000 kilograms of force. Even though the attack had brushed past the white barrier, it was still able to shatter the barrier that was capable of withstanding attacks at the great circle of the Foundation Establishment realm. Philostikis had used the Origin Shield technique and managed to deflect the attack in time. However, the tremendous force caused Philostikis' escape light to fall to the ground. Even the great circle of Foundation Establishment barrier around his body had come into contact with the ground. The immense friction caused the speed of the streak of light to decrease. The Philostikis reacted quickly and quickly took out 2 talismans. A talisman? He smashed into the ground, and a small whirlwind suddenly appeared under his body. With the help of the whirlwind, the Philostikis rose into the sky again and continued to fly forward. The small whirlwind that appeared blocked Lu Kuan's vision, which was equivalent to giving him an additional layer of protection. As for the other talisman, it turned into a white shield and continued to support his escape light. The Philostikis was indeed very experienced in battle. After suffering Lu Kuan's attack, he only managed to pass through 2 talismans. Not only did he obstruct Lu Kuan's vision, but he also recovered his escape light. The exchange between the two seemed rather complicated, but it was actually completed in just 2 breaths. Although the Philostikis was very satisfied with his own reaction, he was still somewhat worried. He extended his divine sense behind him and was shocked to discover that Lu Kuan had already disappeared from his original spot. It turned out that Lu Kuan was already rushing in his direction. Purple lightning flashed under his feet, and the short burst of power was actually not inferior to the speed of the pseudo-magic treasure. Following which, Lu Kuan was about to approach the whirlwind. Even if your escape technique is strange, it will definitely delay you for a few breaths of time to bypass this peak intermediate level hurricane technique. By that time, I will have already reached the forest and met up with fellow Daoist Xiao. Just as Philostikis was thinking this, his divine sense suddenly discovered that Lu Kuan had made a strange movement. He saw the tall and sturdy man holding the huge club with both hands behind his right back. The ball of lightning that had brushed past Philostikis had already bypassed the small whirlwind and returned to Lu Kuan's side. Then, Lu Kuan's extremely fast figure suddenly stopped. Even if Philosophes used his divine sense to observe this situation, he felt very awkward. This was not a movement that a human body could accomplish. Following which, Lu Kuan swung the huge club in his hand at the ball of lightning in front of him. If someone from Earth saw this movement, they would find that it was very similar to a baseball strike. What is he trying to do? Although my hurricane technique talisman is not strong enough, if it passes through this wind-type spell, its speed will definitely decrease a lot. It will be easier for me to dodge. Philosophes was only paying attention to Lu Kuan's movements and did not notice the golden light that blossomed from Lu Kuan's eyes. Boom! Another sound of air exploding was heard. Philosophes controlled his escape light while carefully observing the small whirlwind in front of Lu Kuan with his divine sense. That's impossible. Observing the still whirlwind, Philosophes was somewhat astonished. But at this moment, he suddenly felt a watermelon-sized ball of lightning appear beside him. Philosophes cried out in alarm. He did not care about controlling his escape light, and used his cyan curved blade to block in front of him. He did not expect that the ball of lightning would be hit in an arc. In his understanding, Lu Kuan's attack that relied on brute force should be straightforward. Only spells could change the direction of the attack. Philosophes was an immortal cultivator who only knew about spells. He did not know that physical attacks could be hit in an arc through the technique and angle of force exertion. Bang! The falling ball of lightning seemed to have been precisely calculated. It accurately bombarded Philosophes' white barrier, causing a huge explosion. The barrier formed by the origin shield technique was instantly shattered. His entire body was blasted to the ground by the enormous force. At this moment, Lu Kuan had already rushed out of the small whirlwind. He casually tore apart his robe that had been torn by the whirlwind and looked at Philosophes, who had been blasted to the ground. He was quite satisfied. With the golden eye divine ability and the calculation ability of a late-stage foundation establishment stage divine sense, coupled with the precise control of my muscles, such an arc attack can accurately hit the target. Then, he looked at the whirlwind behind him with some disdain. Although this guy has a wind-type spiritual root, does he have all kinds of wind-type spell talismans? He has everything, but they are too rigid. Talismans? There is a lack of soul in his spells. It is too different from Master Niez's unpredictable means. Hey, this guy is not dead. In Lu Kuan's surprised eyes, Philosophes' body, which had fallen to the ground, actually glowed with a faint blue light again and flew towards the woods. And during this delay, Xiao Hongfei, who had discovered the situation outside, also came out to help. Dahe also grabbed the wishful meteoric iron staff and rushed out anxiously. The place where Lu Kuan and Philosophes met was about 2 miles away from the small forest. After a short chase and 2 exchanges, Philosophes was already outside the small forest. Lu Kuan looked at the other cultivator and Philosophes who were about to meet up. Another thunderball appeared in his hand and he roared, "Dahe, divine ability, quick!" Dahe heard this and stuck the wishful meteoric iron staff in his hand into the ground. At the same time, while roaring to the sky, his huge fists were suffused with a strong yellow demon aura. He suddenly hammered his muscular chest that was also exuding a yellow light. Dong dong. An extremely dull sound came, and the figures of Xiao Hongfei and Philosophes suddenly stagnated, as if they had been immobilized. There was a moment of pause. Lu Kuan's thunderball seized this critical moment and blasted Philosophes, whose aura had dimmed. The brute force and the power of thunder and lightning directly blasted Philosophes' body. Chapter 378. When Xiao Hongfei heard Lu Kuan's roar, he felt uneasy. Isn't the Black Mountain Ape's ability the 2 giant hands? What other ability does it have? Although he thought so, he still slapped the Origin Shield talisman on his body. But when the Black Mountain Ape's hands hammered his chest, he still couldn't defend himself. In that instant, he felt as if the blood in his body had stopped flowing. It was as if his heart had been ruthlessly hammered. His body didn't have the slightest bit of strength, and his magic power also stagnated. Fortunately, Xiao Hongfei's divine sense was comparable to that of a core formation cultivator, as well as his extremely pure Fa Li. allowed him to regain control of his body for a moment. Soon, he regained control of his body and landed steadily on the ground. But in this short period of time, Master Feng Lingzi had been blasted apart by the lightning ball in front of him. This senior apprentice brother of the Heavenly Talisman sect that he didn't have the confidence to kill had actually been killed by Lu Kuan. Looking at the slowly approaching Lu Kuan with an overbearing aura and no signs of injury, Xiao Hongfei's expression remained the same, but his heart was filled with shock. Damn it, we're clearly stronger. Why have we been led by the nose ever since we entered this demonic chi area? What kind of tracking ability does this Lu Kuan have? Could it be that our every move is under his control? Also, when did he set up this trap? Logically speaking, if he wanted to set up this trap, he shouldn't have had time to heal himself. I don't believe that he can recover in such a short time. Xiao Hongfei simply couldn't understand how Lu Kuan had done all this. Seeing Lu Kuan approach, he didn't dare to make the slightest move. He only floated his 5-piece Vajra ring in front of him as a defense. Previously, his spiritual sense had clearly seen the way Lu Kuan attacked Philosophes. Even if his magic power was purer than Philosophes, in this demonic chi-filled area, his speed wouldn't be much faster than Philosophes with the help of a pseudo-magic treasure. If he were to escape now, he would very likely be attacked in the same way. That seemingly brainless Black Mountain ape had actually secretly hidden a control ability. This ability could even cause him to lose control of his body for a moment. If he were to escape, the control ability of the Black Mountain ape and Lu Kuan's powerful long-range attacks would make it worse for him to fight them head-on. Lu Kuan walked to the place where Philosophes had fallen. He slowly put away the storage pouch and the scimitar-shaped pseudo-magic treasure that shone with green light. Then, he looked at Xiao Hongfei. This time, he recognized this enemy that he had met on the battlefield of the Shangqing sect. Lu Kuan suddenly realized. So it's fellow Taoist Xiao from the Shangqing sect. No wonder I was called by my real name, even though I changed my appearance. Fellow Taoist Xiao's fellow disciples are very familiar with my techniques and fighting style. Xiao Hongfei was extremely wary of Lu Kuan. However, he still had a secret technique. He didn't panic too much. He released the pure magic power in his body. At the same time, his early core formation level spiritual sense pressed down on Lu Kuan. He was secretly preparing this secret technique. He said coldly, I didn't expect that after all these years, fellow Taoist ability would have more than doubled even though you're still at the early core foundation establishment level. Even Philosophes died in your hands. You should know that he was the eldest foundation establishment disciple of the Heavenly Talisman sect. He was the focus of his sect's cultivation. Lu Kuan felt this powerful spiritual sense. His face turned slightly pale. Then, he used the concealing spiritual root divine ability and hid all his spiritual sense in his sea of consciousness. He then showed a relaxed smile and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, are you threatening me? Since I, Lu Kuan, dared to enter the demon island alone, I'm not afraid of offending the 10 great sections. Xiao Hongfei found that Lu Kuan didn't change at all under the pressure of his spiritual sense. Moreover, he couldn't sense Lu Kuan's spiritual sense. He then looked at Lu Kuan's face, which didn't have any traces of illusions or spells. He had a better understanding of Lu Kuan's concealing divine ability. His face turned a little ugly. Lu Kuan was also a little afraid of his senior martial brother of the Shangqing sect. Back then, he and Qin Yushu spent a lot of effort to kill Zhao Jinhong by surprise. However, Zhao Jinhong was only his junior martial brother. Xiao Hongfei had now reached the great circle of foundation establishment. His strength was much stronger than it was back then. In his opinion, the power of his spiritual sense and the pure spiritual power in his body were not inferior to martial Uncle Niez when he was at the great circle of foundation establishment. He was definitely at the top of the foundation establishment level. Moreover, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Xiao Hongfei's body contained a terrifying energy. This energy made him feel as if he was facing a core formation cultivator. Lu Kuan suddenly said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, I have a question. Why did Philosophes and fellow Taoists pursue me so closely and insist on killing me? Although my Yang clan participated in the battle against the Shang-Qing sect, the real main force was the miraculous gate. Moreover, your Shang-Qing sect only lost its headquarters. Its orthodoxy still exists. Fellow Taoist, you can't be happy to kill me because I killed a lot of Shang-Qing sect disciples, right? Xiao Hongfei saw that Lu Kuan didn't have any intention to attack immediately and was slightly relieved. Although his last resort could temporarily give him the combat power of an early core formation cultivator, once he used it, he wouldn't be able to condense a golden core using the ancient method of core formation. The price was too great. He hesitated for a moment and said, "Those disciples weren't as strong as others and were killed on the battlefield. There's nothing to say. I don't have a good relationship with them, so I won't trouble fellow Taoist over this. As for chasing you here, it's because of Philosophes. I don't know where he got the news that the Yang clan's method of refining sentient puppets is in your hands. I'm familiar with Golden Peak of the Heavenly Talisman sect. He also knows about your strange technique and powerful body. Moreover, the Fire Lady of the Heavenly Talisman sect fought with you before and recognized that the cultivator who broke out of the spirit descending platform was you, Lu Kuan. Therefore, Philosophes asked me to join forces with him to deal with you." When Lu Kuan heard about the Fire Lady, he suddenly understood and thought to himself, "It seems that my fighting style is too obvious. Moreover, although my face changes, my body doesn't change much. That's why I was recognized in battle." Seeing that Lu Kuan was thinking, Xiao Hongfei continued, "Fellow Taoist Lu, I was hired by Philosophes to join forces with him to deal with you. Now that Philosophes is dead, this contract is no longer valid." Lu Kuan revealed a trace of a cold smile and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, you joined forces with Philosophes to attack me and almost killed me and my spirit beast. How could such a big grudge be resolved with just a few words?" Xiao Hongfei shook his head and said, "I'm an immortal cultivator. Everything I do is to break through to a higher realm. Since Philosophes has enough things to move me and I don't have the confidence to kill him, I can only accept this contract of employment. Moreover, fellow Taoist Lu, the two of us are in the same boat. We both left our sects and became rogue cultivators. The main culprit, the miraculous gate, is our common enemy." Following that, Xiao Hongfei's tone changed and a terrifying aura faintly spread out from his body. He said coldly, "However, if fellow Taoist Lu wants to test my abilities, I will definitely accompany you." Lu Kuan felt Xiao Hongfei's aura and said with a somewhat gentler tone, "I also don't want to fight to the death with fellow Taoist Xiao. However, isn't it a bit too easy for fellow Taoist Xiao to write off the previous grudge with just a few words?" Xiao Hongfei immediately understood the meaning behind Lu Kuan's words and asked, "It seems that fellow Taoist Lu wants me to compensate fellow Taoist with some treasures. Although I, Xiao Hongfei, am not small, compared to the remaining disciples of fellow Taoist Yang clan, I'm afraid I'm still lacking by quite a bit." When Lu Kuan heard that Xiao Hongfei believed that he had taken away a lot of the Yang clan's treasures, he didn't explain and instead asked, "Fellow Taoist Zhao's magic power is so pure and the power of your divine sense has also reached the level of the core formation stage. Did you enter the Demon Island to break through using the ancient core formation method?" When Lu Kuan felt Xiao Hongfei's magic power and divine sense, he recalled the ancient core formation method that Qin Yushu once mentioned to him. He only succeeded in establishing his foundation by referring to the ancient foundation establishment method. Chapter 379. Xiao Hongfei raised his eyebrows and hesitated for a moment before nodding and admitting. He said proudly, "That's right. When I, Xiao Hongfei, broke through to the foundation establishment stage, I used the ancient foundation establishment method. The reason I stayed in the foundation establishment stage for so many years was to form the pure gold core of the ancient cultivators." Xiao Hongfei saw the light in Lu Kuan's eyes and understood. He asked, "Could it be that fellow Taoist Lu also wants to use the ancient core formation method to form a gold core?" "That's right. I see that fellow Taoist lightning attribute magic power is extremely pure. It doesn't seem like it was cultivated through medicinal power. Moreover, fellow Taoist spiritual sense is not weak. You really have a chance to walk this path. Lu Kuan smiled and didn't deny it. He said, I'm sure fellow Taoist has already guessed that one of the things I want is the ancient core formation method. Xiao Hongfei frowned and said, what are the things? Other than that, what else does fellow Taoist want? Tell me all at once. Lu Kuan looked carefully at Xiao Hongfei and continued, looking at fellow Taoist's expression, I'm sure you have some confidence in breaking through to the core formation stage. What do you mean? For some reason, Xiao Hongfei had a bad premonition in his heart. Lu Kuan narrowed his eyes and said, I won't hide it from fellow Taoist Xiao. I and a few remaining senior and junior brothers of the Yang clan have bought a tool refining pavilion in the marketplace of the Abyss Island. You also know that it's very difficult to survive in the competitive marketplace of the Abyss Island for a long time without any background or strength. Therefore, my other request is that after fellow Taoist forms his gold core, you stay on the Abyss Island for 100 years and protect my tool refining pavilion for 100 years. Xiao Hongfei immediately showed an angry expression and shouted, Impossible, Lu Kuan! You're looking down on me, Xiao Hongfei. How dare you make such a rude request? If worst comes to worst, we'll fight. Lu Kuan had also heard from Xiao Hongfei that he had also become a loose cultivator because of the miraculous gate. Moreover, he wanted to break through using the ancient method of core formation. His strength was not to be underestimated. Lu Kuan wanted to seek his protection. By the time Xiao Hongfei reached the core formation realm, his strength would at least be comparable to a cultivator in the middle stage of the core formation realm. However, Lu Kuan hadn't expected Xiao Hongfei's reaction to be so intense. He refused without hesitation. Only now did he realize that he had neglected the dignity of an expert like Xiao Hongfei. Lu Kuan felt the terrifying aura brewing in Xiao Hongfei's body. He let out a cold snort and said, Since Taoist Lu insists on fighting with me, then Lu Kuan will accompany you to the end. After saying that, Lu Kuan immediately activated his giant arms. The two meteorite rods in his hands were connected head to tail, and two thunderballs were inlaid on both ends. The four pseudo-magic weapons combined with the silver dragon meteorite iron, together with Lu Kuan's giant arms, exuded a terrifying power that was not inferior to Xiao Hongfei's secret technique. Dahe, who was not far from the two, looked at the two people who were about to fight. It seemed to be affected by the bloodline aura in Lu Kuan's giant arms. It was very excited, and its thick-skinned palm seemed to have grown a little bigger. Dahe saw that the battle was about to begin. It did not pick up the wishful meteorite iron rod from the ground. Instead, it fully mobilized the demonic spirit power in its body and poured it into its strong chest muscles, blooming a rich yellow light. It was trying to find an opportunity to use the previous control technique again. Xiao Hongfei felt the aura of the man and the beast, and his face became very ugly. Lu Kuan slowly poured thunder attribute spiritual power into the combined pseudo-magic weapon. At the same time, he said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, it's not that I, Lu, am boasting, but even if it's an early core formation stage cultivator, I, Lu Kuan, can contend for a while. And my defensive power, fellow Taoist has also seen it. If we both go all out, the person who survives will definitely be me. When Xiao Hongfei heard this, his face was uncertain. He recalled the scene of Lu Kuan's physical body resisting the pseudo-magic weapon. The weapon in his hand, now, had an amazing aura. It was at least at the level of a pseudo-magic weapon. Indeed, as Lu Kuan said, if the two really went all out, Xiao Hongfei would most likely die, and Lu Kuan would only be seriously injured. However, Xiao Hongfei had the dignity of a top-notch cultivator in his heart. He couldn't agree to Lu Kuan's previous rude request. Fortunately, Lu Kuan spoke again at this time. I was rude just now. How about this? I'll reduce the time I agreed to with fellow Taoist Xiao by half. Fellow Taoist only needs to live on Abyss Island for 50 years and consolidate his core formation stage cultivation. During this time, you only need to fight 3 times. If you fight more than 3 times, I'll give fellow Taoist a sufficient reward. How about it? When Xiao Hongfei heard Lu Kuan's words, his heart was somewhat moved. If he really entered the core formation stage, just consolidating his cultivation and refining his magic weapon would take a lot of time. He clenched his teeth and could only reluctantly say, "Okay, I can agree to fellow Taoist Lu Kuan. However, I need a medicinal pill from Philosophes' storage pouch." Lu Kuan's face revealed an expression of great joy and said, "Haha, no problem. What medicinal pill does Brother Xiao want?" Xiao Hongfei saw the joy on Lu Kuan's face, but he didn't relax his magic power in the slightest. He secretly cursed the little fox in his heart and said, "That medicinal pill is called the Divine Accumulation Pill. It can temporarily increase the strength of a core formation stage cultivator's divine sense. If fellow Taoist uses his divine sense, you'll find it extraordinary." Lu Kuan chuckled and didn't check the storage pouch. Instead, he said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, if there's no problem, let's make a divine sense oath. With fellow Taoist divine sense at the core formation stage, I can rest assured if you make a divine sense oath." Xiao Hongfei's expression was somewhat gloomy. Lu Kuan was right. His current divine sense couldn't return after making a divine sense oath. Even if he advanced to the core formation stage, his divine sense would still be at the core formation stage. Afterwards, he finalized the contents of the oath with Lu Kuan and gave Lu Kuan the ancient method of core formation. For 50 years after the core formation stage, he had to stay on the Abyss Island and not attack Lu Kuan. He had to unconditionally attack Lu Kuan 3 times and keep the matter of the remaining disciples of the Yang clan a secret. On the other hand, Lu Kuan had to pay a divine accumulation pill and form an alliance with Xiao Hongfei on the Demon Island. They couldn't attack each other, and so on. No matter how one looked at it, Lu Kuan had profited from this deal. Fortunately, they were in this demonic aura area and had the Black Mountain Ape and Lu Kuan working together to force this terrifyingly powerful cultivator to submit. After the two finished swearing the divine sense oath, there was a trace of aura hidden in each of their divine senses. Only then did Lu Kuan remove the giant arm divine ability and put away his pseudo-magic treasure. He smiled and said, "Brother Xiao, I will have to trouble you to take care of me for the next 50 years. Xiao Hongfei's mouth twitched when he heard this guy who wanted to fight him to the death immediately call him Brother Xiao after making the oath. Then, he took out a jade slip from his storage bag and threw it over. "Fellow Taoist Lu, this is the complete content of the ancient method of core formation. Shouldn't you give me the divine accumulation pill?" Lu Kuan caught the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense. He showed a satisfied smile. Then, he grabbed the storage bags of Philosophes and scanned them. He took out a pill bottle with a snow-white pill inside. Lu Kuan threw it to Xiao Hongfei and said, "I just scanned this pill with my divine sense, and my divine sense felt a little full. It should be the divine accumulation pill that Brother Xiao mentioned." Xiao Hongfei caught the pill and carefully identified it. He put it into his storage bag. Then his body flashed and he said, "Fellow Taoist Lu, I'll take my leave for now. I'll find a place to cultivate in seclusion. See you later." Chapter 380. After watching Xiao Hongfei leave, Lu Kuan heaved a sigh of relief. His originally calm face turned a little pale. Although he hadn't fought with Xiao Hongfei just now, he had still consumed a lot of blood essence by constantly activating the giant arm theurgy. Xiao Hongfei wasn't in his best condition, but Lu Kuan could faintly feel that if he were to fight with Xiao Hongfei, who had used his trump card, the final outcome would most likely be a lose-lose situation. Lu Kuan looked at Dahe, who was still in the "I want to beat my chest" pose, and sighed in his heart. If it weren't for Dahe, I'm afraid Xiao Hongfei wouldn't have given in so easily. The unknown theurgy is always frightening. As the young master of the last overseas Black Mountain Ape tribe, Dahe's awakened innate theurgy isn't as simple as strengthening the attack and defense of his fists. Even I would lose control of my body for a moment when my body is injured, let alone these traditional immortal cultivators whose bodies are extremely weak. That huge monkey fist, coupled with the demonic chi in the chest, let alone these traditional immortal cultivators whose bodies are extremely weak. This is a powerful theurgy that specifically targets the body. It's also the reason why not many demon beasts on the demon island dare to provoke Dahe. Of course, the sea bear, whose body is even stronger than Dahe's, won't be affected by this theurgy. Although Dahe is a little impulsive and lacking in understanding, he still remembers my previous instructions. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to kill Philostikes and intimidate Xiao Hongfei. It turned out that when Lu Kuan instructed Dahe and Xiao Jin to seduce Philostikes, he had already thought of the fight between them. According to Dahe's understanding of the other powerful demon beasts here, he led them into the seclusion grounds of several demon beasts. However, other than the sneak attack of the green bamboo snake in the bamboo forest, the demon beasts in other places didn't notice their existence. If Xiao Jin hadn't taken advantage of the time when Dahe lured the sea bear out to set up a human array inside and outside the cave, they wouldn't have been able to fight the sea bear. Fortunately, this round of chase had consumed a lot of Philostikes and Xiao Jin's mana. Their original plan was to wait until the next day, when Xiao Jin sensed that Lu Kuan was coming over to fight them head-on. Dahe relied on Xiao Jin's wishful meteoric iron staff to tangle with the two of them. Lu Kuan waited for an opportunity to join the battle, and with Dahe's innate ability, he unexpectedly killed one of them. Who knew that Philostikes would actually chase after Xiao Jin alone in a hurry, which was why he was quickly killed by Lu Kuan. In the end, under the influence of Dahe's powerful control ability, Xiao Hongfei had no choice but to give in. Lu Kuan put Xiao Jin on his shoulder, and while thinking, he walked towards Dahe, who was smiling foolishly at him. "All right, Dahe, you don't have to smile foolishly. I really don't know how a dumb ape like you managed to survive in the demon beast world until now. Your enemy has been lurking beside you for so long, and you didn't notice?" Lu Kuan said with a smile. As he spoke, a falling thunderball appeared in his hand, and he quickly smashed it into an open space in the forest. Roar! On the originally empty ground, a tall demon bear with white hair suddenly appeared. Its bare paw slapped forward and directly slapped Lu Kuan's falling thunderball away. Then, this seemingly mighty demon bear turned around and lay down, sticking out its fat bare butt. Its forelimbs quickly kicked the ground, and it quickly fled into the distance, crashing into countless trees. This sea bear, whose physical strength was not inferior to Lu Kuan's in his normal state, had no stagnation at all when it blocked the falling thunderball and fled with its butt sticking out. Lu Kuan and the others were dumbfounded. Lu Kuan smacked his lips and said, "Dahe, this sea bear race is a powerful race among the overseas demon beasts, right? At least, they're much stronger than your Black Mountain apes." The chimpanzee looked in the direction where the sea bear had fled and nodded blankly. Lu Kuan sighed and said, "Dahe, as the young chief of the Black Mountain apes who has awakened their natural talents, you should learn more from the sea bear. Look at this guy. He knows that he can't beat the enemy, but he is running away without any hesitation. If it were you, you would most likely continue to fight recklessly and be killed." "Dahe," Lu Kuan patted the chimpanzee's thick arm and said, "All right, Dahe, let's find a safe place and let the little monkey continue to heal his wounds." Woo-woo. Understanding the meaning of Lu Kuan's words, Dahe led the way in front. Not long after, Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin were brought to the place where it had absorbed the demonic aura. This was a huge forest. Under the nourishment of the demonic aura, every tree had grown for tens of thousands of years. Each tree was as big as a dozen people hugging around it. At this time, Dahe had already given up its original tree hole to Xiao Jin. This tree was considered the place with the densest demonic aura in this huge forest. "Xiao Jin, heal your wounds well. After you recover, I will find a place with abundant spiritual aura to break through the bottleneck of the early stage of foundation establishment. After I finish, you can return to the demonic aura area to cultivate for the rest of your time. With your talent in absorbing demonic aura, you may be able to reach the peak of second-level demonic beast in a few years. By then, with my advancement experience, you may also be able to break through in one fell swoop." Xiao Jin nodded obediently and ran into the tree hole. Then, Lu Kuan and Dahe simultaneously felt that the nearby demonic aura was extremely turbulent and rushed into Xiao Jin's body. Although it was a little less active than when the little monkey was healing, it was still more intense than the demonic aura fluctuation caused by a fourth-level peak demonic beast like Dahe. Lu Kuan looked at Dahe's covetous eyes and said with a smile, "Dahe, you can cultivate by Xiao Jin's side. I think you can get a lot of benefits. I will set up a few simple warning arrays nearby. With my protection, there will be no problem. After all, there are not many demonic beasts here that are stronger than me." The chimpanzee smirked and walked carefully into the tree hole. It lay down in a place slightly close to the little monkey and began to cultivate. Lu Kuan saw that the two demonic beasts had entered the state of cultivation, so he set up some simple warning arrays in the forest. Then, he jumped onto the big tree where the tree hole was located. Although he had just entered the Demon Island not long ago, from the beginning, he had been tracking the two people of the Red Refining Sect, killing Kai Fengnian and ambushing Tian Renjia, who cultivated the Red Refining demonic technique many times. Later, he almost died in the hands of Philosophes and Xiao Hongfei. He escaped into the demonic aura area and then counterattacked. He was in a constant battle, not to mention stopping to carefully check the spoils of war. He didn't even have time to relax his nerves. After a little sigh, Lu Kuan put down 9 storage bags on the thick trunk in front of him, except for 2 that belonged to Kai Fengnian and 3 that belonged to Tian Renjia. The remaining 4 belonged to Philosophes, the eldest senior brother of the Heavenly Talisman sect. Next to these storage bags, there were 2 pseudo-magic weapons shining with spiritual light. Not to mention the things in these storage bags, just the 2 pseudo-magic weapons are already a huge harvest, especially the one belonging to Philosophes. It can be completely transformed and combined with Senior Brother Qin's 5-feathered universe saber. Senior Brother Qin's strength will definitely increase greatly. And this red demon claw is inconsistent with the cultivation method of several senior brothers. I can only modify it and throw it at the Abyss Auction House. Chapter 381. The first was Kai Fengnian's storage bag. Lu Kuan only glanced at it in a hurry before. Except for the blood coagulation grass, he didn't look at the other things carefully. Now that he checked it, he was a little disappointed. Kai Fengnian's other things were nothing more than some ordinary magic tools, materials, and talismans. The best magic tool in it was only a level 3 psychic magic tool. There were also some jade slips, which should be the cultivation method of the Red Refining Sect. In addition, the most valuable thing was such a good demon token. "Hey, is this the Scarlet Blood Yuan pill?" Lu Kuan's hand flashed, and an emerald green medicinal pill appeared, not the crimson color he imagined before. "It should be. I can distinguish the smell of the blood coagulation grass. This guy only has 600 intermediate level spirit stones on him. As the second senior brother of the Red Refining Sect, he is so miserable." Lu Kuan shook his head, put the Scarlet Blood Yuan pill in, picked up a few jade slips, and browsed briefly. He found that except for the Scarlet Magic technique, it was a common cultivation method. Then he put the jade slip of the Scarlet Magic technique aside and continued to look at Tian Renjia's storage bag. Lu Kuan first happily took out a dozen blood coagulation grass. With these numbers, he could refine enough blood marrow powder. TSK. This Tian Renjia's value is much higher. There are more than 2,000 intermediate level spirit stones. Hey, these materials are also very precious. He deserves to be the senior brother of the Red Refining Sect. Lu Kuan continued to inquire in Tian Renjia's storage bag. Suddenly his eyes lit up. He took out 2 pill bottles, opened one of the jade bottles, and poured out a gray-white medicinal pill. Yes, this should be the Tian pill. It is exactly the same as the one in Zhao Jinhong's storage bag. Senior Brother Zhu will soon reach the great perfection of the foundation stage. It is just right for him to for his core. The other one is the Scarlet Blood Yuan pill. It feels more advanced than Kai Fengnian's, but unfortunately, it is useless for me. Lu Kuan took back the medicinal pill with some regret. Then he took out 2 talismans with strange fluctuations. These were the intermediate level top control spells that Tian Renji used to deal with him. Lu Kuan sighed and said, "This spell may be a unique spell of the Scarlet Magic technique, but my thunder attribute spiritual power can't activate it at all. Otherwise, it won't be so troublesome to deal with the philosophies." Shaking his head, Lu Kuan then took out a lot of dark red blood bottles from the storage bag. After sensing it slightly, his face sank. This guy really killed a lot of cultivators. Even if the blood essence of the body cultivator was found, the consequences would be unimaginable. If the blood of the body cultivator's blood was found facing the red refining sect, the consequences would be unimaginable. Then Lu Kuan said with a bit of relief, "Tian Renjia has been killed by me. It will take many years for the red refining sect to have the next one who can cultivate the Scarlet Magic technique. By then, our body cultivator lineage is likely to develop." By the way, the blood sacrifice method of the old Ghost Morong back then felt very similar to the Scarlet Magic technique. It also broke through the bottleneck through the power of the blood essence. Later, I absorbed it by chance, which allowed my Vajra tactics to enter the realm of great accomplishment. The jade slip left by Tian Renjia before he died seems to be the Scarlet Magic technique. I will study it later. Maybe it will inspire my body refining technique. After checking the storage bags back to his waist, Lu Kuan looked at the remaining storage bags. Even if he killed a lot of cultivators in the foundation stage and had a high net worth, he couldn't help but show excitement in the face of the savings of the senior brother of the Heavenly Talisman sect. When I took the pills just now, I found a Heavenly Change pill and a second Spirit Accumulation pill. With my experience of breaking through the foundation stage, the power of spiritual sense is also important to breaking through to the core formation stage. Then, I will probably use the remaining Spirit Accumulation pill. But according to Xiao Hongfei, this pill can only be withstood by the spiritual sense of the core formation stage. Lu Kuan frowned and said, "Although my spiritual sense is quite powerful, if I don't cultivate the spirit sensing technique improved by Martial Uncle Zhu to perfection, it will be difficult for my spiritual sense to reach the level of core formation stage. If this breakthrough is successful, it will be a lot earlier than I planned. Then, I will spend more time cultivating the spirit sensing technique and studying the ancient core formation method." Putting away the divine accumulation pill, Lu Kuan continued to look through the storage pouches. He was shocked when he saw that one of the 4 pouches was filled with spiritual stones. There were more than 7,000 mid-grade spiritual stones in there. One could imagine Feng Lingzi's wealth. There was also a storage bag full of spirit talismans. There were low and mid-grade spirit talismans, but most of them were ordinary. There were only about 10 wind attribute spirit talismans left. Apart from these, the other storage bags were filled with all kinds of techniques and materials. Lu Kuan sighed with emotion. From this, it could be seen that the Heavenly Talisman sect's talisman crafting technique had made a fortune in the state of Chu. Even so, they still coveted the Yiyang clan's tool crafting technique. After all, with the help of a top-grade tool crafting technique, the Heavenly Talisman sect's strength would most likely increase. Lu Kuan silently pondered for a moment. It seems we need to be more careful. The Heavenly Talisman sect was so greedy when they heard about the sentient puppet crafting technique. Wouldn't the other 10 great sects be even crazier? We can only develop cautiously. We can't let the 10 great sects associate us with the Yang clan. Determined to develop in a low-key manner, Lu Kuan put away the storage bags. He leaned against the tree trunk and picked up the jade slip that Tian Renjia had left behind. As he read, Lu Kuan gradually revealed a strange expression. This red refining devil art actually talks about the fusion of blood and magic power. Fusing the blood with the magic power of a cultivator and using a special method to cultivate, the magic power formed will have a different power. Muttering a few words, Lu Kuan continued to read. As he read deeper, his frown deepened. After a few hours, Lu Kuan finished reading all the information in the jade slip. His expression was very complicated. So this is a tyrannical devil art. It unceasingly refines the blood and magic power in the body, and the blood essence can be absorbed through a special method to achieve the effect of a breakthrough. It seems that old Ghost Murong's blood sacrifice is very similar to this, but it also seems to have been modified by someone. That's why it can be used for ordinary cultivators to break through to foundation establishment. For this art, the blood essence of a high-level cultivator is a medicinal pill. Then Lu Kuan had some doubts. According to the description of this art, after reaching core formation, the cultivator's blood will be greatly strengthened. It's very possible that the blood also contains magic power. If that's the case, the magic power is indeed tyrannical, but the blood is stronger than the muscles and bones. Then the physical body is very likely to collapse due to an imbalance. Although Lu Kuan didn't understand this red refining devil art, from his experience in body refinement, the physical body must be cultivated step by step. Although this art is powerful, as the blood essence flourishes, the physical body's other elements become weaker and weaker. This is a contradiction. Could it be that this red, refining devil art also has a method to strengthen the physical body that isn't described? Or perhaps only those with powerful physical bodies are suitable to cultivate this art? Chapter 382. After thinking for a while, Lu Kuan showed a self-deprecating smile. This red refining demonic art was re-derived by the red refining sect. It is normal to have flaws. This is the cultivation method of traditional cultivators. Even if it can strengthen the blood later, it is also a matter of the core formation stage. There is no cultivation method after the core formation stage in the jade slip, so it is not of much reference value to me at present. However, Lu Kuan looked at the jade bottle containing his essence blood in his storage bag and murmured, "This method of refining and absorbing essence blood, I can completely use it. Before, when I was healing, I directly swallowed the essence blood, but the effect was too low. If my essence blood is first refined with a special method and then absorbed with the relevant method, even if there is no breakthrough effect in the red refining demonic art, it should be no problem to use it for healing." Then Lu Kuan said strangely, "I didn't expect the central area of the demon island to have a lot of demonic chi. I was wondering why the word demon was engraved on the demon token. Now it seems that it should be referring to the demonic chi and the demonic chi. But the demonic chi and spiritual chi fill the periphery of the island, while the demonic chi is blocked by the silver restriction. Could it be that the demonic chi is sealed in this demon island? But what is there to seal with the demonic chi? Those demonic cultivators are eager to soak in the demonic chi." Lu Kuan thought for a while and couldn't figure out the reason for the existence of the demonic chi, and spiritual chi here, so he put away the jade slip. The matter of killing the red refining sect disciples is completed, and if Xiao Hongfei succeeds in the core formation stage, he can also find a temporary backer for the treasure tool pavilion with the strength of the middle core formation stage. I have to prepare for the breakthrough of the early foundation establishment stage and enter the middle foundation establishment stage as soon as possible. Lu Kuan calmed down and began to organize his thoughts for the breakthrough. The reason why I came to this demon island with abundant spiritual chi is to cooperate with the rich spiritual chi here and force the mana in the bones into the marrow cavity and the cancellous bone deep in the bones. When the blood is filled with magic power, the new blood produced in the body will gradually fuse with the magic power. In the end, when all the blood cells are filled with magic power, it will be the time when the middle stage of foundation establishment is completed. Next, the tempering of my internal organs will be easier, because my blood will naturally circulate throughout my internal organs. Under the tempering of my blood filled with mana, the strength of my internal organs will gradually increase. When my internal organs are strong enough to directly store mana, that will be when I reach the late stage of foundation establishment. Lu Kuan simply combed through his thoughts. He discovered that as long as he broke through to the middle foundation establishment stage, then the late foundation establishment stage, which was the viscera forging stage, would naturally follow without any bottlenecks. The only thing he needed was time. Although Lu Kuan's internal organs had been tempered by the Vajra esoteric art and were much stronger than ordinary immortal cultivators, they were still the weakest part of his body. They couldn't be tempered in a short period of time. If I want to fully utilize the dense spiritual energy here, I have to engrave a spirit-controlling formation on my body. This way, whether it is controlling or circulating my mana, it will be smoother. Moreover, the power of my divine sense is already at the late stage of foundation establishment, which will be of great help to the breakthrough. The next thing I have to prepare is to refine all the blood marrow powder, engrave a spirit-controlling formation on my body, and then find a suitable place to break through. After Lu Kuan thought about it, he took out the blood essence he had prepared in advance and the blood coagulation grass he had just obtained from the two people from the red refining sect. These materials were enough to refine a large amount of blood marrow powder. Then, he took out the congealed jade bottle and refined it alone on the branch. He was familiar with the refining of this blood marrow powder. If there was really a demon beast disturbing him, he might ask Dahe to help him block it. Time slowly passed by as Lu Kuan refined the materials and the two demon beasts cultivated. In the central area of the Demon Island, which was the silver restriction in the middle of the Demon Spirit Mountain range, there was a bottomless abyss filled with dense black devil chi. The bottomless abyss was wrapped in a silver restriction that connected to the sky. It was impossible to see the devil chi from the outside. Inside the abyss, the stone walls next to the abyss were eroded by the devil chi and turned purple-black. There were even some tenacious plants and rocks. After being contaminated by the devil chi for many years, they formed many refining materials that were precious to the devil Dao cultivators. At this time, at the bottom of this devil abyss, Tian Renjia, who only had half of his body, was lying on the ground. On his body, there was a black disc, and the devil chi nearby was slowly being absorbed by this disc. At the same time, bursts of black spirit light gushed out from inside, covering half of Tian Renjia's body. It seemed to be protecting Tian Renjia. If one looked carefully, one would find that there was still a part of the spirit light drilling into Tian Renjia's body. Suddenly, Tian Renjia's incomplete upper body seemed to tremble slightly, as if he was not dead. At this moment, a green light shot out from the depths of the devil abyss. The green light was extremely dim, as if it would disappear at any time. When it saw Tian Renjia's incomplete body, it rushed in like a cat seeing a fish. Then Tian Renjia's hands suddenly covered his head, and his mouth let out a scream. In this silent devil abyss, it was very harsh. After Tian Renjia's scream, he was like a dead fish, and there was no movement. After an unknown period of time, the incomplete corpse opened his eyes, and a faint green light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Tian Renjia had come back to life. I didn't expect that just when I couldn't hold on, the secret plan I set up in the past finally played its role. Although I was beaten into half, and my divine soul was in a state of confusion and about to dissipate, I was still a living human cultivator. Tian Renjia's mouth opened and closed, and a horrifying hoarse voice came out. His voice was full of boundless meaning, as if he was an old man who had lived for countless years. Then Tian Renjia picked up the black disc with one hand and looked at the devil token and laid on it. Tian Renjia's face showed a trace of nostalgia. That guy really kept his promise and made this devil token. We didn't waste our efforts to send him out in the past. Otherwise, I wouldn't be the only one left here. Well, this little guy really practiced the devil arts. But logically speaking, some of the devil arts I taught him in the past should be quite strong after practicing it. This guy's cultivation was at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, but his dantian was broken outside the restriction, and his body was broken into two pieces. Could it be that after so many years, the strength of the human cultivators here has become so strong? Tian Renjia muttered Tian Renjia as he looked at his miserable body. Right? Didn't I devour the little guy's divine soul? I'll know after checking. Then the unknown existence that occupied Tian Renjia's incomplete body fell silent, as if he was searching for memories. Not long after, he opened his eyes again and said with a bit of surprise, "There is actually an existence among the human cultivators who specialize in the physical body." Chapter 383. Tian Renjia was lost in thought. Then, he used his right hand to support his chin, as if he was thinking about his memories. Soon, The face on the broken body showed a puzzled expression. He whispered, according to the memories of this little guy called Tion Rengia, he has never heard of a cultivation technique that specializes in the physical body in the immortal cultivation world. Tion Rengia, this little fellow, only encountered this enemy with a powerful physical body after entering the island. TSK, this guy who cultivates his physical body. His last move was really wonderful. He released the power of his physical body incisively and vividly. However, his arms suddenly expanded so much. I seem to have heard of this magical power before. Then, Tion Rengia frowned and said, but why did this body cultivator chase after Tion Rengia as soon as he entered the island? This little guy doesn't have any impression of this person in his memory. He just wanted to break through as soon as possible. Tion Rengia was lost in thought. Not long after, he showed a look of understanding. I know, this person's physical body is very strong. His blood essence is a great supplement for demonic arts. He probably realized that Tion Rengia's demonic arts were his mortal enemy, so he wanted to kill Tion Rengia before he reached the core formation realm. Tion Rengia said in a relaxed tone, so there are very few people who cultivate their physical bodies in the immortal cultivation world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risked entering the island to kill Tion Rengia when he was only in the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Then, there are definitely no nascent soul realm cultivators who cultivate their physical bodies. I'm afraid there aren't any core formation realm cultivators either. After I go out, I'll have to look for all the cultivators who cultivate their physical bodies. If the physical bodies of human cultivators become strong, they will be a great supplement for my clan, and I can nip them in the bud. Otherwise, if a high-level body cultivator appears, it will be troublesome. Tion Rengia showed a mocking expression again. It's a new cultivation school, not to mention the difficulty of breaking through. Even if I don't destroy it, with the nature of human cultivators infighting, it won't rise so easily. That's right. If I'm not mistaken, the current human cultivators definitely don't have the help of powerful demons. They should be much easier to deal with compared to the past. Then Tion Rengia looked at his body and was a little surprised. Red refining demonic art. I didn't pass down this demonic art back then. Looking at the incantation in his memory, it has already been changed beyond recognition. Even so, this little guy can still cultivate to the great circle of Foundation establishment. Unbelievable. It's the devil marrow body. As if it had noticed the difference in this body, the hoarse voice was suddenly filled with surprise. If it's the devil marrow body, then I can refine the other body parts here into this devil marrow body. In this way, the cultivation speed of demonic arts won't be any slower than my original body. After recovering part of my cultivation, I can complete the great cause of my clan. After laughing wildly for a while, Tion Rengia put away the black disc in his hands. Using his hands as his feet, he walked into the depths of the demon abyss with his broken body. After a while, he disappeared into the depths of the dense demon chi. In a forest somewhere in the demon chi area, Lu Kuan sat on the branch of a big tree and looked at the 10 bottles of blood marrow powder in front of him with a rather excited expression. I didn't expect the refining speed to be even faster this time. In the future, I could try to study the art of alchemy. Xiao Jin has also completely recovered. At this moment, Lu Kuan clearly felt that the demon chi in the vicinity had calmed down. The little monkey's aura had recovered to its original state and was even somewhat stronger. Thus, he jumped down the tree and landed at the entrance of the cave. The little monkey quickly ran out and jumped onto Lu Kuan's shoulder. It winked at Lu Kuan and squeaked excitedly. The dense demon chi here is really beneficial to you. In just a few days, your injuries have recovered and your demon chi has also increased. Lu Kuan was pleasantly surprised after carefully probing with his divine sense. Squeak, squeak. Whoa. At this moment, Dahe also stopped cultivating and ran out. Seeing that the little monkey had recovered to its original state, it began to laugh foolishly, as if Xiao Jin's recovery was more important than its breakthrough. Squeak, squeak. At this moment, Xiao Jin pointed at Dahe. then pointed at Lu Kuan and kept squeaking. Lu Kuan was a little surprised when he heard this and said, "You said that Dahe's bloodline is actually the closest to mine?" Xiao Jin nodded, while Dahe continued to laugh foolishly. Lu Kuan recalled Dahe's fists that had doubled in size. It was indeed similar to his giant arm ability. However, his entire arm was much stronger than Dahe's. "Dahe, my perception of bloodlines is much worse than Xiao Jin's. What do you feel about my bloodline?" Dahe scratched its head, laughed foolishly, and squeaked twice. Lu Kuan looked at Xiao Jin curiously and asked Xiao Jin to translate. Squeak, squeak. Lu Kuan covered his forehead with one hand and did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Dahe, you can only sense the ancient demonic ape bloodline, but you can't sense the distance of the bloodline? In that case, Dahe can compete with me in terms of bloodline sensing ability." Then Lu Kuan thought for a moment and suddenly asked, "Dahe, when are you going to break through the bottleneck?" Dahe scratched its paws and raised a finger in a very human-like manner. "A year later?" Dahe nodded. Lu Kuan revealed a thoughtful expression and said, "Well, one of my goals in entering the Demon Island is to advance to the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment Realm. If everything goes well, it won't take too long. After I break through, I'll come to you again. Firstly, I'll bring Xiao Jin to your place to cultivate. Secondly, after I break through, I could try to give you something. If our bloodlines are very similar, this thing will definitely help you break through." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Looking at Dahe nodding foolishly with a happy face, Lu Kuan shook his head helplessly. "I hope you'll become smarter after you advance to a level 5 demonic beast. Dahe, Xiao Jin and I will leave first. We'll come to you after a while." When a chimpanzee heard that Lu Kuan and the others were about to leave, it immediately showed a reluctant expression and then squeaked a few more times. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin immediately translated. Lu Kuan nodded and said, "Don't worry, we'll definitely come to you. After all, I also want to know the true origin of my bloodline." Then Lu Kuan patted Dahe's thick and strong arm hard and said goodbye to him. Then he took Xiao Jin and ran toward the outside of the demonic aura area. Soon, they disappeared from Dahe's sight. Dahe looked at the disappearing figures in the distance, then grimaced and touched the place where Lu Kuan patted. It muttered a few words and then turned around and walked into the tree hole. It took nearly 2 years for a demonic beast to advance from level 4 to level 5. Moreover, the difficulty of advancement was no less than that of an immortal cultivator. Especially for a demonic beast like Dahe who had awakened his innate talent, it was even more difficult. In fact, Dahe was reluctant to part with Lu Kuan before. Apart from the feeling in his bloodline, he also wanted to take Lu Kuan to his clan and let the old monkey in the clan take a look. Although his reaction was a bit slow, his intelligence was not too low. He knew that the strength of the Black Mountain Ape clan was extremely weak and had reached the point of life and death. If they had the help of the ancient demonic ape's bloodline, they would definitely improve a lot. Dahe shook his head. He could not help but recall the situation when he was with Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin in the past few days. He thought about the methods they used to deal with the enemy and remembered Lu Kuan's teachings in his mind. Chapter 384. After Lu Kuan left the demonic aura area with Xiao Jin, he didn't go too far. He knew that there were many powerful cultivators on the Demon Island. Philosticus, who had ambushed him, was only the eldest senior brother of the Heavenly Talisman sect, the weakest of the 10 great sects. Although he had Xiao Hongfei as his teammate, Lu Kuan was only able to deal with them in the demonic aura area with Dahe's help and the fact that the two didn't have enough magic power. If he had encountered more than 2 of the core disciples of the 10 great sects elsewhere, it would have been dangerous. Therefore, Lu Kuan planned to find a place for seclusion near the demonic aura area. The spiritual energy here was affected by the demonic aura and was less pure than other places. It didn't matter that he was advancing to the middle stage of Foundation establishment. The other cultivators who entered the Demon Island were all trying to break through to the core formation stage. These people definitely couldn't choose such a place for seclusion. After spending a little time, Lu Kuan used Philostaki's pseudo-magic scimitar to dig out a medium-sized cave under the mountain wall. Then, he carefully laid down several formations. One of them was found in Philostaki's storage bag. Its defensive power was extremely strong. Even if he attacked with his full strength, he wouldn't be able to break it in a short time. Then, Lu Kuan instructed Xiao Jin to guard him at the entrance of the cave and walked into the cave. First, he lined up the blood marrow powder that he had just refined and placed it in front of him. Previously, I carved 8 places: the forearms, calves, palms, and feet. However, the spirit-controlling formations on the forearms were destroyed in the previous battle. They need to be repaired first. With the joints as the dividing point, the left and right forearms, the left and right thighs need to be carved. Then, the torso needs to be carved. With the spine as the dividing point, the left and right latissimus dorsi muscles are 2 places, and the back waist muscles are 2 places. For the front of the torso, the pectoralis major is divided by the sternum, so 2 need to be carved. The abdominal muscles don't have any bone joints, so only 1 needs to be carved. The size of each spirit-controlling formation is slightly different. Fortunately, I have enough blood coagulation grass this time. Then Lu Kuan took out the Jiuyo cauldron and Philostaki's storage pouch. He said with some emotion, "Philostaki's had a wind attribute top-grade spell talisman. There aren't many left, but there are still quite a few fire elemental ones. In addition to what I've prepared, it's enough for me to inscribe the formation." Muttering to himself, Lu Kuan took out Philostaki's pseudo-magic treasure. He cut open the skin on his forearm and placed it into the 9 nether cauldron before tossing in a blaze talisman. He used the power of this top-tier flame to burn the fascia of his arm. Next, Lu Kuan started from the restoration of the spirit-controlling formation on his arm. He gradually inscribed spirit-controlling formations on the fascia of his body's main muscles. After some time, he and Qin Yushu had jointly refined a large number of magic treasures and pseudo-magic treasures. Lu Kuan's refining skills had become extremely proficient. Now, the only thing that limited his refining skills was most likely his cultivation level. Qin Yushu was the same. Their current level was gradually approaching that of Zhu Siming, Nia Wufeng, and Gu Tianjian, whose fate was unknown. They all had the ability to refine magic treasures. Unfortunately, they didn't have a core formation level core fire, so they couldn't refine magic treasures. Only if a core formation cultivator was willing to consume their core fire and listen to their commands could they refine magic treasures. Therefore, with Lu Kuan's current refining skills, it was extremely easy for him to inscribe spirit-controlling formations on his body. Even so, he spent an entire month to finish inscribing spirit-controlling formations on his body. Of course, he also finished preparing the spirit-controlling formations on his arm. Fortunately, I have Philostaki's bag of talismans. Otherwise, the ones I prepared wouldn't be enough. I didn't think that after entering the peak of Foundation Establishment early stage, my defensive power would increase by a bit. After muttering a few words, Lu Kuan closed his eyes. The surrounding spiritual energy quickly surged into Lu Kuan's arms. Then, the lightning seal on his arms transformed the spiritual energy into lightning attribute magic power that quickly circulated throughout his body. Feeling the flow of magic power without stagnation, Lu Kuan revealed a trace of a smile. This way, with the help of the rich spiritual energy, I can continuously transform the spiritual energy into lightning attribute magic power. After my body is full of magic power, with the help of my spiritual sense and body spirit controlling formation, I can push the magic power into my bone marrow and bone. After sorting out his thoughts for a breakthrough, Lu Kuan was in no hurry to break through. Instead, he lay down inside the cave and slept for 1 day and 1 night. Although cultivators could maintain their peak state without sleeping, the mental exhaustion was not something that could be recovered through cultivation. Moreover, his calculations were very accurate. The day he woke up was the day his spiritual root appeared. Although breaking through wasn't something that could be completed in a day, with the help of his spiritual root from the beginning, he felt more at ease. Therefore, After Lu Kuan woke up, he felt an abundance of energy in Rellingan's appearance and immediately began to break through. Under the combined effect of his spirit root and the spirit-controlling formation, the surrounding spiritual energy quickly surged into his body. Lu Kuan's spiritual energy was already full, and it didn't take long for his muscles and bones to be filled with thunder attribute spiritual energy. Next, Lu Kuan slowly pressed his magic power into the depths of his bones. In order to ensure that all the bones in his body were synchronized, Lu Kuan slowed down the absorption of spiritual energy. He increased his lightning attribute magic power bit by bit. With every increase in magic power, he could feel the resistance in the depths of his bones become stronger, as if it was resisting his overflowing magic power. Lu Kuan's face also showed a pained expression as his magic power increased. Time gradually passed. Under Xiao Jin's nervous expression, on the 5th day, Lu Kuan's body was already trembling. His face was covered with blood vessels and was incomparably red. His skin was full of green veins and blood vessels. Green and red blood vessels appeared outside his skin. Pucci! Suddenly, a slight explosion came from Lu Kuan's leg. The blood vessels there directly burst, as if it had caused a chain reaction. The blood vessels that appeared outside his body burst one by one, directly dyeing him into a bloody person. After that, Lu Kuan fell straight to the ground. The little monkey, who was carefully observing at the side, was extremely flustered and hurried to his side. Looking at Lu Kuan, who was covered in blood, Xiao Jin anxiously squeaked. Although the little monkey was protecting Lu Kuan, it used its divine ability to hear the situation in Lu Kuan's body clearly. It knew that the resistance of Lu Kuan's bones was too great, and there was no way to press his magic power inwards. The magic power that could not be released in his body could only press against the blood vessels that covered his entire body. Although the blood vessels in Lu Kuan's body had been strengthened several times during the tempering of his muscles, they were only tempered on the outside of his blood vessels and were much weaker than his bones. In the end, they finally could not withstand the pressure of his magic power and burst. Fortunately, through the power of his bloodline, Xiao Jin felt that Lu Kuan's life force was still vigorous and knew that his life was not in danger. As expected, after only a little more than 2 hours, Lu Kuan woke up. At this time, the blood vessels in his body had automatically repaired themselves without the constant pressure of his magic power. Chapter 385. Squeak Squeak. Seeing Lu Kuan in a daze, Xiao Jin could not help but call out to him. At the same time, he waved his monkey paw in front of Lu Kuan's eyes. Lu Kuan came back to his senses. He patted Xiao Jin and comforted him. My blood vessels just burst. With my physical body's recovery ability, I'll be fine. He sighed and continued. With your magical powers, you should have sensed the situation in my body just now. Xiao Jin nodded worriedly. Actually, I know a little about the problem of the blood vessels being weaker, but I didn't pay much attention to it before. It was only after entering the Demon Island that I realized its importance, whether it was running over my strength or using my maximum strength to attack continuously. I thought that after entering the Middle Foundation establishment stage, the mana in the blood would strengthen the blood vessels. Both the blood and the blood vessels would be stronger than before, and my endurance in battle would greatly increase. But I didn't expect that the strength of the blood vessels would be an obstacle to my advancement to the Middle Foundation establishment stage. The toughness of the blood vessels makes it possible to break through. After breaking through, the blood vessels become tougher. Lu Kuan suddenly felt a headache coming on. In order to force the mana into the depths of the bones and reduce the pressure on the blood vessels during the breakthrough, just now, I used up a lot of my divine sense. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fainted in the end. Lu Kuan rubbed his temples, trying to relieve the discomfort caused by using up a lot of his divine sense. I have to force the mana into the bone marrow in one go, but not let it press on the blood vessels and the muscles. My divine sense of the late Foundation establishment stage is far from enough. Damn it! Is there no way for me to break through this time? Do I have to wait until the spirit sensing technique is completed? Lu Kuan was extremely unwilling to give up. No, if a body cultivator needs such a strong divine sense to advance to the middle foundation establishment stage, even if I succeed in breaking through, my disciple will also encounter this problem when he reaches this bottleneck. Not every body cultivator can reach this level of divine sense. There must be a solution. Even if it's the worst solution, there must be one. Lu Kuan shook his head and forced himself to calm down. He recalled the process of his breakthrough and carefully pondered over his understanding of body refinement. Yeah, I almost forgot that a trace of magic power had already seeped into the bone marrow cavity of my forearm. Only then did Lu Kuan recall what had happened during the healing process. He raised his arms and looked at his undamaged forearms. He said curiously, "Logically speaking, a trace of my magic power has already penetrated into the depths of my forearm bones. I should be able to pour in even more now that I've broken through. Could it be that this strand of mana is too little to allow the mana inside and outside of the bone marrow cavity to converge?" Lu Kuan began to reminisce. Previously, I used my forearm to block the attacks of the Philosophies and Xiao Hongfei. They broke through my defense, and, in the end, the bones in my forearm cracked. After that, when I used the spirit chi and the spirit stones to heal my injuries, I was able to produce a trace of dermic powers in the bone marrow cavity of my forearm. If that's the case, then the cracks in the bones are the key. Lu Kuan hammered his head in frustration. He muttered, "Why didn't I think of this before? As long as there are cracks in the bones, when a mana is suppressed by a huge force, it can definitely penetrate deep into the bones. If the blood vessels are fragile, then if I break the bones, won't the bones be even more fragile than the blood vessels?" Immediately after, Lu Kuan took out the green scimitar that he obtained from the Philosophies. After being stunned for a moment, he helplessly put it away. "This weapon won't do. Not to mention that I can't activate this weapon. Even if I can, I've just finished carving the spirit controlling formation all over my body. I can't possibly destroy the spirit controlling formation just to crack my bones. Without the spirit controlling formation to help me control and suppress the mana, it's still dangerous to break through. The only way to create cracks in the bones while not destroying the spirit controlling formation, the fascia, is to use a club or hammer-type weapon to hammer the bones. Then my and Xiao Jin's pseudo-magic treasures are the best tools." Lu Kuan carefully sensed all the bones in his body and sighed with emotion. After the previous tempering, the structure of the bones has long been different from that of ordinary people. Apart from a part of the skull and spine, almost all the bones in the other parts of the body have marrow cavities. If I want to break through, I must let my mana enter the depths of all the bones in one go. If I do it several times, it's very likely that these bones will be even stronger, increasing the difficulty of the next breakthrough. Lu Kuan took a deep breath and slowly said to himself, "It seems that I have to crack all the nearly 200 bones in my body in one go. Then, I'll complete the breakthrough in one go." At this point, Lu Kuan's forehead couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. For such a breakthrough, all the bones in the body must be cracked. Even if Lu Kuan's willpower was firm, he still felt a little afraid when he thought of such a scene. In the past, when he broke through the chi refining stage and reached the foundation building stage, he was destroying his muscles. After being cleansed by the Vajra esoteric art, his senses were several times stronger than ordinary cultivators. The pain he felt was also doubled. However, because of his resistance to thunder and lightning, the second lightning strike didn't cause as much pain as the first time. Now that Lu Kuan's soul sensing technique was much more refined than before, he could even sense the nerves in the body with the power of a cultivator's divine sense. Lu Kuan couldn't imagine how much pain he would feel when all the bones in his body were cracked. Soon, the fear in Lu Kuan's eyes disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a desire for a new realm and a firm gaze for the path ahead. I, Lu Kuan, created my own body refining technique and reached the foundation building stage. How could I give up the opportunity to break through the bottleneck just because of a little pain? He immediately took out 2 meteoric thunder rods and 2 lightning balls and began to ponder. Although Lu Kuan had figured out the next breakthrough point, it was still a little troublesome to carry it out. If I want to crack the bones that were tempered with mid-level spells, even if my muscles don't defend, I'll need at least the attack power of the Great Circle of Foundation building stage. If I hold the Meteoric Thunder rods myself, the most I can do is crack the bones in other parts of my body. However, I can't do anything about the parts that my arms can't reach, or the bones in my arms. Squeak! Lu Kuan frowned and looked at the little monkey in front of him. He shook his head and said, "Xiao Jin, your strength is only more than 30,000 pounds. Even if you use the wishful meteoric iron rod, it will be very difficult for you to break my bones." Xiao Jin suddenly pointed outside and shouted again. Lu Kuan looked happy and said, "Yes, I can find Dahe. This guy's strength is at least 50,000 pounds. After using his magical power, it will increase a lot. If he uses the wishful meteoric iron rod, it will be just right for him to do this." Then he said worriedly, "I just don't know if this guy can understand what I mean. If he is afraid of attacking me, it will be troublesome. After all, at a close distance, he can feel my bloodline aura more clearly." Xiao Jin immediately stood up, held his head high, and gestured to Lu Kuan. He also patted his chest that didn't look very strong. "That makes sense. You are the most suitable person to explain the situation to Dahe. You and I are connected by blood. You understand what I mean best. Moreover, the magical power of the spirit ear can hear the movements in my body. In addition, you also have the bloodline of the ancient demonic ape." Lu Kuan patted Xiao Jin on the shoulder and said, "After I recover all the injuries on my body and the power of my spiritual sense, I will go find Dahe. However, we still have to change the place of our seclusion. Because if we use this cruel method to break through with my broken bones, I can only use my spiritual power. My combat power is worse than the average Rellingan early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator. If there are really several powerful enemies coming, it will be difficult for you and Dahe to resist in the spiritual chi area." After the incident where he was almost killed by the Philostikis and Xiao Hongfei, Lu Kuan became more cautious. In the past, he relied too much on Xiao Jin's magical power. Chapter 386. A few days later, at the edge of the demonic aura area, a burly man stood at the foot of the double-headed mountain peak. Behind him were two apes. One of them was a yellow-haired little monkey that was only as tall as an ordinary person's knee. It was calling out to a black gorilla that was more than 10 feet tall. The little monkey seemed to be explaining something to the black gorilla. The seemingly mighty and majestic black gorilla had a fawning look on its face as it obediently listened to the little monkey's teachings. From time to time, it would let out a whimper in response. They were Lu Kuan, Xiao Jin, and Dahe, who they had brought out. Lu Kuan didn't pay attention to the two beasts chattering behind him. Instead, he rested his chin on one hand and looked at the eastern peak that was filled with spirit chi. Then, he glanced at the western peak that was very close to him. Although the spiritual chi here is just as dense, it is mixed with some demonic aura. It is almost impossible for the disciples of the 10 great sects to come here. I can't rule out the possibility of them coming here with ulterior motives like Tianrenjia. However, this place is very close to the demonic aura area. Even if the disciples of the 10 great sects come here with Dahe and Xiao Jin, they can definitely bring me into the demonic aura area in time. It is the safest place. With a plan in mind, Lu Kuan took out his green scimitar. Purple light flashed under his feet as he directly leaped towards a small mountain peak. Lu Kuan relied on the explosive power of the thunderous explosion steps to fly in the sky for a short period of time. However, he could not stay in the air. After circling around the eastern peak, he quickly found a suitable place. He used a sharp weapon in his hand to carve out a cave. This time, he set up 2 entrances to the cave. One was the normal entrance, and the other was the escape entrance that faced the demonic aura area in the west. The escape entrance was very hidden. Then, Lu Kuan called for Xiao Jin and Dahe to enter the cave. He cautiously set up all the defensive arrays from the Philostikis and Tianrenjia. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Lu Kuan said somewhat self-deprecatingly, "Once bitten, twice shy. It seems that I was quite frightened by the previous sneak attack. Then he turned around and looked at Dahe and Xiao Jin, who had already ended their conversation. He said uncertainly, Xiao Jin, you've already explained everything to Dahe, right? Xiao Jin nodded, and Dahe also nodded vigorously, indicating that he knew what he had to do. When Lu Kuan saw this, a spiritual light flashed in his hand and 3 earth-yellow talismans appeared. He threw it into the open space in front of him. With a flash of yellow light, the open space changed from ordinary mountain rocks to dense and solid rocks. With the help of the 3 advanced intermediate fossilization spells, this place has become much sturdier. It won't sink so easily. After that, Lu Kuan took a deep breath and slowly lay down on the seemingly solid ground, spreading his body out in the shape of the Chinese character. A fiery light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a deep voice, Xiao Jin, transform the wishful meteoric iron staff and throw it to Dahe. Then we'll start. Xiao Jin also looked serious. He took out the pair of wishful meteoric iron staff from his back, put them together, and urged his demon spiritual power to make them bigger. Then, he threw them to Dahe. Dahe excitedly caught the huge staff in his hand, but then he looked at Lu Kuan lying on the ground and hesitated. Dahe, you don't have to think about anything else. Just listen to my instructions. Hoo. First, use most of your strength to hit the bones of my feet. Dahe obeyed Lu Kuan's instructions. Without thinking about anything else, he controlled his strength and smashed the staff toward Lu Kuan's right foot. Dong! Immediately, there was a muffled sound, but Lu Kuan's right foot did not have any other changes. Lu Kuan felt Dahe's attack power and commanded in a steady voice, Dahe, now use all your strength and hammer 3 times in a row. Dong! Dong! Ka! When Dahe hammered the 3rd time, he immediately heard a cracking sound. He could not help but tremble in his heart. He secretly glanced at Lu Kuan's right foot and found that its shape had changed slightly. The skin on the outside of his foot was bleeding. Lu Kuan's face was slightly pale. He said, very good. Continue with the other foot. Use the same strength. Dong! Dong! Ka! Okay, next is the right calf bone. Use all your strength and aim at the place closest to the right foot 5 times. Then, hit the place close to the knee 5 times. Lu Kuan listened to the hammering sound in his ears. While he endured the piercing pain, he also accurately estimated how many hammering sounds his bones would need to receive before they cracked. Soon, Lu Kuan's bones below the knee were cracked. Next was his thigh bone. Under his control, the muscles of his leg were directly relaxed and did not seem to have much defensive power. As early as when Lu Kuan cultivated the Vajra esoteric art, his muscles were already like a certain part of a man's body. They could be as soft as cotton or as hard as iron. Now, under the control of his muscles and nerves, the thigh muscles had almost no defensive power. However, Dahe smashed this thigh bone and hammered it 10 times with all his strength. Just after this leg was completed, Lu Kuan suddenly exclaimed softly. Then his expression changed, and he immediately shouted, Dahe, speed up and activate your special ability. Hit the other thigh 6 times with all your strength. Hurry! Although Dahe had heard Xiao Jin's explanation that this was Lu Kuan's method of breaking through, he was still hesitant when he acted. He had enough strength, but his speed was very slow. At this moment, when he suddenly heard Lu Kuan say to speed up and activate his special ability, Dahe was immediately stunned. Xiao Jin also felt something at this moment. He squeaked loudly and urged Dahe to hurry up. The chimpanzee revealed a very conflicted expression, but he still obeyed the order. His fists suddenly expanded more than twice their original size. He roared to encourage himself and smashed at Lu Kuan's other thigh. Lu Kuan's face turned pale. However, when he felt the speed of his bones shattering increase, he breathed a sigh of relief. He endured the more intense pain and continued to command Dahe's movements. The reason why Lu Kuan asked Dahe to speed up was because the damaged bones, even if he did not activate his mana to repair them, the thunder attribute mana hidden in the bones would automatically repair them. At this moment, he did not want to waste too much of his consciousness to control his mana. Therefore, he could only speed up the speed of his bone shattering. If he continued at the previous speed, by the time Dahe finished hammering, most of the bones in his leg would have recovered. Next, extremely dull hammering sounds and the sound of bones shattering came from the cave. From time to time, it was accompanied by Lu Kuan's increasingly trembling command. If ordinary people saw the scene in the cave, they would definitely be terrified. Breaking all the bones in the body was a torture. For the sensitive Lu Kuan, it was more than 10 times more painful than torture. In this way, 2 hours passed. Dahe had already thrown the wishful, meteoric iron staff aside. Its body trembled slightly. It had exhausted too much of its strength and was also frightened by Lu Kuan's terrible behavior. Cold sweat broke out on the monkey's face, and its eyes were full of horror. Xiao Jin stood aside with a slightly pale face. He clenched his fists and looked at the middle of the cave with a worried expression. At this time, Lu Kuan was covered in blood. His limbs were limp on the ground in the middle of the cave, motionless. The ground under his body, which was originally reinforced by the fossilization technique, was not only stained red with blood, but also sunk several inches. Suddenly, the surrounding spiritual energy seemed to be attracted by something and rushed towards Lu Kuan at a very fast speed. The thunder seal on his arms also bloomed with a dazzling light. Chapter 387. At this moment, Lu Kuan was in extreme pain. His powerful senses amplified the pain in his body by dozens of times and transmitted it to his brain. The bones in his limbs were in a state of shattering, and he couldn't move his body. He couldn't even change his posture to reduce this torture. However, Lu Kuan didn't think about alleviating or restraining this pain. He clenched his teeth and forced himself to ignore this pain. Every second he wasted to resist the pain, the bones in his legs that were shattered earlier would repair themselves, increasing the difficulty of his breakthrough. Lu Kuan screamed crazily in his heart. In addition to the Rellingan's role, he also mobilized part of his spiritual sense to operate the spirit controlling formation and quickly absorb the extremely rich spiritual energy around him. The turbulent spiritual energy of the Demon Island, under the combined efforts of the Rellingan and the sixth spirit controlling formations on his 2 arms, was like an invisible spiritual energy vortex that surged towards the 2 thunder seals on his arms. Then, through these thunder seals, it was transformed into pure thunder attribute spiritual energy that entered his body. As the new thunder attribute spiritual energy was produced, Lu Kuan separated a part of his spiritual sense and spread it towards the spirit controlling formations in other parts of his body. Then, these spirit-controlling formations that Lu Kuan painstakingly engraved on his body were like invisible hands that slowly mobilized the new thunder attribute spiritual energy into the depths of his muscles. In order to produce a spurt of energy effect, Lu Kuan didn't force the spiritual energy into his broken bones from the beginning. Instead, he temporarily relied on his late-stage foundation establishment spiritual sense to control the spiritual energy between his muscles and bones. He didn't dare to rush the spiritual energy into his bones temporarily, because if there was a high density of spiritual energy in his bones, then the cracks in his bones would heal even faster. At the same time, Lu Kuan laid out a faint layer of defensive thunder shield inside his torso and all his internal organs. Although there was no powerful energy to temper his bones now, it would be troublesome if his bones were to be damaged by the impact of the spiritual energy. Moreover, with this layer of defensive thunder shield protecting part of his bones, Lu Kuan was even more at ease in suppressing his transcendence energy. For example, when he used the humanoid thunderfall technique on his opponent, the difference between being in the air and being on the ground was the same. It was obvious that the latter would receive more damage. When Lu Kuan crushed the bones, he did not use any of his Fa Li or spiritual sense. After the bones were crushed, the Fa Li in his body was almost full. This won't do. I need to accumulate more magic power. I'll use my divine sense to isolate the broken bones from the magic power outside. When the blood vessels in my muscles feel an extremely strong pressure, I will suddenly convert the power of the divine sense into an inward pressure. After coming up with a countermeasure, Lu Kuan acted according to his plan. He used his divine sense to control the spirit-controlling formation to form a hindrance, creating an invisible barrier around the shattered bones in his body. The gradually increasing magic power was tightly controlled by this invisible force outside of his bones. At the same time, the extremely rich spirit energy of the Demon Island was absorbed by Lu Kuan's relling in, and the conversion speed of the Thunder Attribute magic power suddenly slowed down. Xiao Jin felt the changes in the nearby spirit energy and began to feel nervous. Ever since he gave the only choice of listening to the cultivation method to Lu Kuan, he was aware of the details of Lu Kuan's every breakthrough. Half a day passed like this. Dahe, cough cough. Hurry. Lu Kuan suddenly opened his mouth and roared in a hoarse voice. However, halfway through his words, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He could no longer speak because his divine sense was operating the spirit-controlling formation at this time. All the nerves in his body were also resisting the pain that was magnified dozens of times. When he opened his mouth at this time, he suddenly lost some kind of balance. Even his divine sense trembled, and the magic power in his body almost rushed into his bones. Therefore, Lu Kuan could only close his mouth again and return to his previous state, but he took a deep look at Xiao Jin. The little monkey suddenly understood after a little sensing. Squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak. The little monkey was extremely nervous and quickly reassembled the wishful meteorite iron staff under Dahe's feet. Dahe felt Xiao Jin's anxiety this time. Without saying a word, he grabbed the thick giant staff, activated his magical power, and smashed it again at Lu Kuan's right foot. Dang! This time, there was a sound of a golden drum, which made Dahe stunned. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin continued to scream anxiously. Roar! Dahe seemed to be cheering for himself. He grabbed the giant staff and crazily smashed it at Lu Kuan's right foot, which had greatly increased its defense. Dang, dang, dang. Bang, bang, bang. Crack! This time, Dahe actually used 7 attacks to break the bones of Lu Kuan's right foot. It could be seen how strong Lu Kuan's defense was when his body was stimulated with magic power. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin quickly roared at the somewhat shocked Dahe. Dahe quivered. In an instant, all the demonic aura in his body was stimulated and injected into his hands. Then his hands, which had swelled up a little, continued to smash the giant staff at other parts of Lu Kuan's body. Roar! Roar! Squeak, squeak. Dahe had almost exhausted all of his demonic spiritual energy and physical strength. After spending less than an hour, he once again broke Lu Kuan's bones that were about to heal. Fortunately, Xiao Jin was able to accurately sense the condition of Lu Kuan's body. He clearly knew that Lu Kuan's magic power was extremely abundant and his muscles were in a defensive state. If his bones were to heal, Dahe's demonic spiritual energy and physical strength wouldn't be able to break them again. Therefore, in a situation where Lu Kuan's bones were not completely healed, Dahe quickly bombarded once to ensure that Lu Kuan's bones were in a shattered state. Although Lu Kuan once again received a painful baptism, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Previously, he let Dahe do it because he was afraid that when he was breaking through the bottleneck, the healing bones would increase the resistance. Gradually, his magic power had reached an extremely high density. Under the pressure of this density, the pressure in his blood vessels began to appear again. This time, Lu Kuan didn't need to spend 5 days to absorb the new magic power. After the previous failure, he clearly knew the limit of the magic power he needed. After nearly a day's time, the magic power he had accumulated was completely enough. Now's the time. Charge for me. Lu Kuan felt the situation in his body and screamed crazily in his heart. The liquid magic power that was blocked outside the bones was like a flash flood, rushing into the bones. At this moment, the resistance of the spirit-controlling array immediately became a driving force. At the same time, Lu Kuan seemed to hear the sound of a membrane in his body being broken. The surging magic power, under his careful arrangement, directly rushed into the bone marrow cavity. Suddenly, Lu Kuan's body trembled. He immediately felt a tingling sensation in all of his bones, as if countless flying needles were pricking his nerves. That kind of sour, cold, tingling, and tingling sensation. Roar. Chapter 388. Xiao Jin and Dahe, who were outside, did not seem to have heard anything. However, after Lu Kuan's transcendence energy rushed into their bone marrow cavities, they suddenly felt something and turned to look towards the west. The two apes revealed an incredulous expression. If there were immortal cultivators outside this double-headed mountain, they would discover that the demonic aura on the western demonic aura mountain seemed to have been stimulated by something. In an instant, it squeezed out the rich spiritual energy of the eastern mountain peak and turned into a long river of demonic aura, rushing towards the eastern mountain peak where Lu Kuan was cultivating in seclusion. Then, under the dull gazes of the two demonic beasts, the demonic aura was like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey, fiercely drilling into Lu Kuan's body. At this moment, all of Lu Kuan's nerves were filled with a tingling and numbing sensation in his bone marrow cavity. His divine sense was also somewhat muddled by the roar from his soul. He could not feel the invasion of the demonic aura at all, and the demonic aura that had entered his body seemed to have a purpose. It entered the bone marrow cavity without any hindrance through the crack in the bone that Lu Kuan had broken through previously. Then it disappeared into the bone marrow cavity. Xiao Jin, who sensed this from outside, was dumbstruck, as if he had become stupid. He could understand the situation when Lu Kuan broke through the bottleneck previously, but the current scene was beyond his understanding. Even if Lu Kuan used the demon luring technique, it was impossible to attract the demonic aura through the rich spiritual energy. One had to know that there was a repulsion between spiritual energy and demonic aura. Even with Xiao Jin's bloodline, he could not guarantee that he could absorb the demonic aura on the other side here. And what stunned Xiao Jin the most was that when the demonic aura entered Lu Kuan's body, it was neither stored nor turned into other energy. It completely disappeared without a trace. This was completely beyond his understanding. Then, under the numb gazes of Xiao Jin and Dahe, this scene lasted for a full day and night before it disappeared. It was fortunate that Lu Kuan had chosen this place, which was originally a mixture of spiritual energy and demonic aura. After such a long time, no immortal cultivators had discovered this strange phenomenon. And after this strange phenomenon disappeared, Lu Kuan's soul gradually became more awake. It was as if this day and night, to him, was just a moment. But he had indeed heard this roar, and he was very familiar with this sound. It was the roar when he refined the blood marrow powder and the pseudo-magic treasure was formed. This was the strange phenomenon produced when the blood essence of the golden giant ape was successfully refined. Could it be that my mana rushed into my bone marrow cavity mean that I refined blood? Into the bone marrow cavity to fill his bone marrow cavity, to fill to the bone marrow cavity, to fill up his bone marrow cavity, to fill his bone marrow cavity, to fill it. Previously, when he broke through the diaphragm outside the bone marrow cavity, it was as if he had opened up a gap. The magic power in his bones entered the bone marrow cavity without any obstruction. After 3 days, with the help of the rich spiritual energy in the surroundings, all the bone marrow cavities in his body were filled to the brim with mana, and the aura that Lu Kuan exuded was even stronger. From the outside, Xiao Jin could sense that he had completely reached the mid-foundation establishment stage. Lu Kuan naturally felt this too, and his heart relaxed. This meant that he had indeed broken through to the early foundation establishment stage. However, he did not stop his cultivation and instead continued to circulate his lightning-type mana. Although after the breakthrough, the bone scars in his body had been healed, but he had not reached his strongest state. Therefore, in the following time, Lu Kuan, on one hand, had to heal all his injuries, and on the other hand, he had to truly refine his blood. It should be known that an ordinary person would take about 20 days to change the blood in his body, but for an immortal cultivator with a strong physical body like Lu Kuan, the time would be much shorter, about 3 to 5 days. Although Lu Kuan had reached the mid-foundation establishment stage, according to Lu Kuan's understanding of body cultivation, his current state had not stabilized because the blood in his body was still at the early foundation establishment stage. He had previously speculated that after the bone marrow cavity was filled with mana, the newly produced blood should also carry mana. After circulating his cultivation for about half a day, Lu Kuan's internal injuries were completely healed because this time the injuries were only to his muscles and bones, and these parts with mana were damaged. Under the protection of his defensive thunder shield, his internal organs were intact, so the healing was very fast. Previously, when he was attacked by the Philosophies, his internal organs were shaken and could only rely on spiritual energy to nourish them, so the healing time was longer. Moreover, in this half a day, Lu Kuan's blood gradually changed and some mana aura appeared. After the blood was produced, it first flowed out through the veins in the depths of the bones and gradually spread to the whole body. With the help of this blood that carried mana, Lu Kuan's recovery ability was further strengthened. During this half a day, Xiao Jin, who was outside, had a different feeling. In addition to being able to sense the situation in Lu Kuan's body, it could also distinguish the changes in Lu Kuan's mana from outside. The little monkey could clearly feel that the mana in Lu Kuan's body had increased by a lot and was completely unlike a cultivator who had just entered the mid-foundation establishment stage. In the next few days, not only Xiao Jin, but even the somewhat slow Dahe could feel that the mana aura in Lu Kuan's body was getting thicker and thicker. It was not until the 5th day that the somewhat numb Dahe felt that the rapid increase in mana had stopped. The chimpanzee felt this obvious increase in mana, and the corner of its mouth could not help but twitch. The Dahe had a strong talent. When it was at the level of a level 3 demonic beast, it would take at least half a year to increase this amount of mana, even with the help of the demonic aura on the demon island. However, Lu Kuan completed it in 5 days. Other than being a little surprised on the first day, Xiao Jin's monkey face was immersed in thought for the next few days. It had discovered the source of Lu Kuan's mana becoming thicker. It was the blood in Lu Kuan's body. This new increase in mana was completely the extra part of his blood. Just when Xiao Jin thought that Lu Kuan had completed the breakthrough and was about to end it, it suddenly sensed that the surrounding spirit energy continued to flow into Lu Kuan's body, and the mana in his blood continued to increase. The little monkey remembered that Lu Kuan had told it that his body cultivator's blood would be changed every 5 days, and the change would end at this time. Why was his mana still increasing? Could it be related to the strange disappearance of the demonic aura previously? Such a thought could not help but appear in Xiao Jin's mind. The second 5 days. The third 5 days. It was the 9th 5 days. After a total of 45 days and 9 rounds of blood replacement, Lu Kuan finally stopped absorbing spirit energy. And at this time, the mana in his body had already reached the peak of the mid-foundation establishment stage in the eyes of the 2 demonic beasts. The mana in Lu Kuan's muscles was transformed from spirit energy and purified by the thunderstrike. It was very pure, so the mana aura that it emitted was not weaker than any late foundation establishment stage cultivator. Lu Kuan opened his eyes, and a hint of an excited smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He looked at Xiao Jin and Dahe in front of him, and a fierce chi and blood power was stimulated from his body. Chapter 389. At this moment, Lu Kuan could clearly feel the abundant chi and blood in his body. It was as if he was in a dream compared to the peak of the mid-stage foundation establishment realm. He could not believe the changes that had taken place during the past 2 months. More than 40 days ago, after he finished healing, he tried to observe the situation of the new blood in his bone marrow. Only then did he realize that the bone marrow in the depths of his bones had turned golden. Previously, the bone marrow that could produce blood was red, and the bone marrow that could not produce blood was yellow. However, when Lu Kuan broke through the bottleneck, he did not know what happened to his body. Not only did his red bone marrow, which could produce blood, but even his yellow bone marrow, which could not produce blood before, had turned golden. Golden bone marrow? Why did it change color and produce blood? Lu Kuan, who could not figure out the reason, could only continue to circulate the qi in his bone marrow cavity, trying to accelerate the production of blood and complete the blood exchange process. During this blood exchange process, the qi and blood in his blood began to slowly increase. Lu Kuan realized that to produce one portion of qi and blood in his body, his bone marrow cavity needed to consume 9 portions of qi and blood. In other words, the conversion ratio of qi and blood was 9-to-1. In other words, the golden bone marrow needed to absorb 9 portions of qi and blood in order to produce 1 portion of qi and blood with qi. This conversion ratio was too low. Lu Kuan could only keep this doubt in his heart. Fortunately, the spirit energy on Demon Island was many times denser than the outside world. Even if the conversion ratio was a little high, it was not a problem. After 5 days, which was the first round of blood exchange, Lu Kuan began to feel that something was wrong. In these 5 days, his qi and blood had increased a little. When he had just entered the early stage of the Foundation establishment realm, his bones could only hold a little qi and blood because they had not been tempered. According to his speculation, the mid-stage Foundation establishment realm of body cultivators should also have such a limit. The qi and blood could only hold a limited amount of qi and blood at the beginning. However, in the past 5 days, Lu Kuan did not encounter the limit of qi and blood capacity. Therefore, he wanted to find this limit. As a result, he kept cultivating, and the blood in his body was exchanged again and again. The qi and blood in his blood only reached a limit after the 9th round. At this moment, Lu Kuan realized that all of his physical mana had reached the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. He was pleasantly surprised. What surprised him was the strange phenomenon between his bone marrow and blood magic. He was happy that he was able to reach the peak of the middle stage of Foundation establishment in such a short time, saving him a lot of time. This way, he would have more time to study the core formation method of body cultivation. Lu Kuan couldn't believe it, so he immediately activated all the qi and blood in his body. As expected, that massive amount of qi and blood shocked even himself. Even Martial Uncle Sue's grade, 5 silver-spotted leopard, didn't seem to have as much qi and blood as he did. After pondering for a long time, Lu Kuan realized that Dahe was prostrating on the ground and looking at him with even more reverence. His expression changed as he said, "Dahe, you can sense the strengthening of my bloodline power?" Dahe immediately started sobbing. She was so emotional that tears were flowing down her cheeks. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Jin quickly translated for Dahe. Lu Kuan looked thoughtful. As expected, could it be that because I entered the middle stage of Foundation establishment, which is the blood-refining stage of body cultivation, the giant golden ape's bloodline has become stronger? This time, Dahe can sense some of its ancestors' aura. It seems that the giant golden ape is really an ancient demon beast with immeasurable strength, and Dahe's Black Mountain Ape tribe is a side branch of the giant golden ape's bloodline. Hoo. Dahe started crying emotionally again. Squeak. Lu Kuan nodded and said, "Okay, after we leave the Demon Island, I will definitely pay a visit to your Black Mountain Ape tribe. I do have some questions to ask the elders of your tribe." At this moment, Xiao Jin suddenly thought of something. She started dancing in front of Lu Kuan. She was very emotional. Lu Kuan heard this, and his expression changed. "What did you say?" When my transcendence energy rushed into my bone marrow cavity, the demon aura of the West Peak was attracted to me and entered my body. Squeak, squeak. The little monkey nodded continuously. At the same time, she used her hands to gesture. "You said that I absorbed the demon aura for an entire day and night?" Lu Kuan heard Xiao Jin's words and immediately fell into deep thought. The time that Xiao Jin said that the demon aura was attracted, wasn't it when I heard the roar of the giant golden ape? Xiao Jin also said that the demon aura disappeared after entering my bone marrow cavity. Could it be that I suddenly reached the peak of the middle stage of Foundation establishment? Was it all caused by the bloodline of the giant golden ape? Thinking of this, Lu Kuan could not help but recall that many years ago, when he was cultivating the Vajra Esoterica, he was trapped in a formation by old Devil Murong to cultivate. The 4th level of the Vajra Esoterica was to use spirit energy to refine the marrow and cultivate the blood. At that time, it was most likely because of my bloodline that I quickly completed the cultivation of this realm. Now, I am using my transcendence energy to refine the marrow and improve the blood from its roots. Similarly, I entered the stage of great success in this realm in a short time. If that's the case, it can only be explained by the bloodline of the giant golden ape. After all, it is the bloodline of the demonic ape. It is not surprising that it absorbed the demon aura. As for the demon aura disappearing after entering my bone marrow, it should be because of my bone marrow. My bone marrow turned golden. It is very likely caused by the demon aura. Since it is because of the bloodline of the giant golden ape, then it should be the same as the breakthrough of the Vajra Esoterica. There should be no after effects. As for the many problems of the middle stage of foundation establishment and the realm of blood, when Qing Tian and the others reach this realm, I will carefully study them. Xiao Jin is a demonic beast. Its situation when it reaches the third level of demonic beast is definitely different from that of a body cultivator. Lu Kuan thought for a while and concluded that the reason for his strange ascension to the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment was due to the bloodline of the giant golden ape. As for the normal body cultivator, he had to consider whether the bone marrow would change color, the ratio of the transcendence energy in the bone marrow cavity to the transcendence energy in the blood, and the periodicity of the blood exchange. He planned to observe and study it carefully when Zhao Qingtian and the other disciples advanced. His situation was that he skipped the middle stage of foundation establishment. The lack of experience in the process of body cultivator would have an impact on the later stages of his cultivation. Lu Kuan stopped thinking. He looked at the little monkey and said, "Xiao Jin, the demon aura was attracted to me. It is very likely that it is because of my bloodline. You don't have to worry about this part. Remember the rest of the process of breaking through the bottleneck." Xiao Jin nodded vigorously. Then, Lu Kuan took out a new robe from his storage bag and put it on. He looked at the firm ground under his feet that was still pressed down. He clenched his right fist and punched downwards. Bang! He saw 3 middle-level advanced stonification spell talismans. The reinforced stone shattered, and even the cave that Lu Kuan had dug at the last minute trembled a little. Lu Kuan sensed carefully and murmured, "My physical strength has increased by a lot. It seems to be around 70,000 to 25,000 kilograms. It is about the same as what I predicted. This realm will not increase one's strength by much, but it will increase one's physical endurance and endurance for high-intensity attacks." Chapter 390. Lu Kuan then retracted all the defensive arrays in the cave and said to Xiao Jin and Dahe, "You two go back to the demonic aura area first. Dahe has the wishful meteoric iron staff and is stronger than the sea bear. There won't be any danger. I still have to test the changes after the breakthrough. After that, I will go directly to Dahe." Lu Kuan showed a bright smile to the 2 monster apes. Then, a turbulent electric light appeared under his feet. He disappeared from the spot and appeared outside the cave. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, Lu Kuan's figure quickly disappeared from the eyes of the 2 apes. Xiao Jin felt the excitement in Lu Kuan's heart and secretly clenched its fist. It placed the wishful meteoric iron staff on the ground on its back and quickly jumped onto Dahe's shoulder, urging the seemingly smart chimpanzee to walk toward the demonic aura area. After witnessing Lu Kuan's successful breakthrough, Xiao Jin was eager to improve its strength. Only in this area, where the demonic aura was abundant, could it make rapid progress. Otherwise, if it was left behind by Lu Kuan, it might not be able to help in the future battle. Not to mention Xiao Jin's desire for a breakthrough, Lu Kuan was running the thunder-controlling flying technique with all his strength at this time. He was running rapidly on the plains outside the Demon Spirit Mountains. His speed was much faster than when he was escaping the Spirit Descension platform. Soon, under the speed of the great circle of foundation establishment, Lu Kuan ran for more than 10 miles. Then he slowly stopped. He panted slightly and analyzed. "After running for 10 miles, my blood vessels only felt a little pressure. With the help of the blood full of mana, my physical running technique is smoother. According to the current estimation, at this speed, I can continue to run for at least 20 to 30 miles. This is only the 45th day since my blood began to circulate. As the blood circulates in the body longer, the strength of my blood vessels will only become stronger and stronger. According to my speculation, except for the blood vessels, the organs in the body will slowly be improved by this blood full of mana. The organs are more fragile. There is no way to temper them with powerful spells like the muscles and bones before. I can only use the blood through mana, which is the longest time. When the organs are slowly tempered to be able to accommodate mana, I will smoothly enter the late stage of foundation establishment. Although the breakthrough of the middle stage was difficult, the late stage of foundation establishment can be achieved with time. In that case, before I reach the late foundation establishment stage, I need to study body cultivation and core formation. Next, I need to focus on cultivating the soul sensing technique. If I can master the soul sensing technique and combine it with my divine sense, I'll most likely be able to reach the core formation stage in the foundation establishment stage, just like Xiao Hongfei and Master Nya. After thinking about the next steps of cultivation, Lu Kuan looked at the sky and laughed. Since my physical endurance has increased, let's see how long I can fly in the sky. Now that the Thunder Attribute mana has more than doubled, the explosive power of Thunder Attribute spells will be very strong. Moreover, my mana will be able to last longer. While he was thinking, Lu Kuan's blood mana had already calmed down some of the discomfort caused by the long-distance running. An even more dazzling purple lightning burst out from under his feet. His whole body shot into the sky like a core formation stage cultivator. After flying to a height of about 1,000 feet, Lu Kuan changed his direction slightly. Lightning flashed on his legs, and he flew in a random direction. Haha, let's call this the Imperial Thunder Escape Technique. At the same time, on a plain of the Demon Island, a green flying boat was flying quickly in the air. On it were two figures, a man and a woman. The man's face was pale and blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. He seemed to be seriously injured, but his eyes were calm. The other woman had a sweet appearance. Although she didn't say a word, her worried and frightened eyes betrayed her inner unease. If Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu were here, they would have discovered that these two were the tool refinement masters who exchanged the demon devil tokens with them, Ding Yifeng and Song Ping-er. Not far behind them, there were two flying boats, one red and one black. They were much faster than the green flying boat. It wouldn't take long for them to catch up to Ding Yifeng and Song Ping-er. Song Ping-er gnashed her teeth and said, "Senior Martial Brother, the disciples of the Scorching Sun sect and the Ghost Spirit sect have gone too far. This demon island doesn't belong to them. Why are they chasing after us? Isn't it better for them to cultivate?" After a moment of silence, Yu Yifeng said, "I made a mistake. I thought that we would be able to resist the ordinary disciples of the two sects with our pseudo-magic treasures. I didn't expect that even ordinary peak foundation establishment cultivators of the 10 great sects will be able to use their pseudo-magic treasures to injure us after activating their secret techniques. They chased us for so long because they took a fancy to our pseudo-magic treasures. Not good. They're attacking us." Suddenly, Yu Yifeng's expression greatly changed. He urged his magic power to push the azure flying boat downwards. At the same time, an arrow made of black and red flames flashed past the boat's original position. From the power it emitted, it was undoubtedly a peak mid-grade magic technique. Damn it, it's the Scorching Sun arrow. They're actually able to use their pseudo-magic treasures. Yu Yifeng kept changing the direction of the flying boat as flaming arrows appeared one after another behind him, attacking the flying boat of the two of them. After all, this male cultivator with decent tool refinement techniques was injured and his spiritual sense was only average. After dodging 5 or 6 times, the flying boat was hit by a flame arrow. Even if Yu Yifeng's flying boat was superior, it was unable to continue flying after being hit by a peak mid-grade magic technique. His eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. When the flying boat was destroyed, he jumped out with Song Ping-er and took out 2 light body talismans. At this time, they were 30 meters above the ground. The light body talismans were more than enough to allow them to land safely. But at this time, a pitch-black ghost claw appeared above the two of them. It It was right at the moment when Yu Yifeng and Song Ping jumped out and activated the light body talismans. Ghost Spirit Claw. Song Ping who was being pulled by Yu Yifeng, immediately noticed the ghost claw. She clenched her teeth and suddenly burned her Great Circle Foundation establishment-level magic power. She summoned a green brocade handkerchief and blocked in front of the two of them. And Yu Yifeng activated the talisman. After that, they only had time to raise their magic power barrier. Bang! The two of them, along with their barrier and defensive magic tools, were caught by the ghost claw. At this moment, all kinds of ghosts and monsters appeared in their minds. The power of their spiritual sense was somewhat scattered, causing their magic power barrier to dim a little. At this time, two flame arrows passed through the gap between the ghost claw and bombarded the two of them's defensive barrier and magic tool. Boom! At this critical moment, a red dot suddenly appeared on Song Ping's azure brocade handkerchief. Then, the brocade handkerchief exploded, creating a gap in the ghost claw. Inside the ghost claw, the two of them recovered their spiritual sense. Borrowing the impact of the explosion, they passed through the gap and crashed to the ground. Yu Yifeng and the other's magical power shield had already been shattered. Although they managed to preserve their lives, the shield had already been broken. They had been forcefully smashed to the ground from a height of more than 10 feet. Their bodies had already suffered considerable damage, and this was still under the condition that they had the light body technique. Chapter 391. Two red-robed, middle-aged men disembarked from the flying ship. One of them had short hair, and the other was bald. Their robes were engraved with the symbol of the sun. This was the symbol of the Scorching Sun sect, the third of the 10 great sections. An exquisite longbow floated in front of the two Scorching Sun sect cultivators. The bow and arrow were engraved with countless complex patterns and emitted a scorching aura that caused the surrounding air to distort. Their faces were slightly sweaty, but their expressions were filled with excitement. Senior Marshal Brother Ouyang's pseudo-magic treasure is truly powerful. Even with the secret technique he taught us, we can still use it for such a long time. It only consumes a bit of magic power. The short-haired, red-robed man sighed with emotion. Another bald man chuckled and said, "This ardent sun bow of eldest senior brother was refined by a nascent soul stage elder in the sect for him. We are still unable to unleash its full power, but even so, we can still easily injure the enemy." Soon after, the bald man turned to look at the man and woman who had just disembarked from the black flying ship. However, the Ghost Spirit sect's fellow Taoist Ghost Spirit Claw is truly astonishing. Not only is it fast, but it also has the ability to conceal itself. Although their strength is only average, they are at the peak of Foundation establishment. In both battles, the Ghost Spirit Claw was able to accurately control them. The Ghost Spirit sect Cultivator appeared to be very young. He had small eyes and thick eyebrows. There was a faint shadow between his eyebrows. The other was a tall, slender, and beautiful woman. At that moment, light flashed from the Ghost Spirit sect Cultivator's hand, and a gray bone claw floated over. It was about the size of an ordinary person's palm and had a storage pouch hooked onto it. The short-haired man's expression changed. "I didn't expect fellow Taoist Fei's control over this pseudo-magic treasure would be so strong. You even took advantage of the opportunity to snatch the opponent's storage pouch." The Ghost Spirit sect Cultivator surnamed Fei grabbed the storage pouch and chuckled. "Your sect's Scorching Sun bow possesses astonishing offensive power. If my sect's Ghost Spirit Claw didn't have some achievements in other areas, how could we compete with the Scorching Sun sect?" The other woman from the Ghost Spirit sect had a calm expression as she silently looked at them without saying a word. The bald man looked at Yu Yifeng and his junior sister, who were lying on the ground and looking at them with hatred. He said, "These two people were injured before. Now that they were injured by our two pseudo-magic treasures, their injuries have worsened. They no longer have the strength to fight back. Fellow Taoist Fei, why don't you take out the items in the storage pouch and take a look? Since we've joined forces to chase after them, it's only natural that we divide the spoils fairly." The bald man then glanced at the bald man and glanced at the woman beside the bald man's ghost spirit claw. After pondering for a moment, he said, "All right. Although these two rogue cultivators seem to have a high net worth, we don't have to fight to the death with these two fellow Taoists. Phase Li's S's SSS. Not far away, Ding Yifeng and Song Ping could only watch as their four opponents wantonly searched through their storage pouches. Because of their previous battle, they no longer had the strength to use their pseudo-magic treasures. Adding on the fact that they had just been attacked by their enemies, their injuries had worsened. Falling from the sky had caused them to be unable to move. In order to control their injuries, they couldn't even speak. Could it be that these two are tool refinement masters? This storage pouch is filled with all sorts of tool refinement materials. The bald man's eyes brightened as he looked at the materials in the storage pouch. His expression became even more greedy. Since the ghost spirit claw had only grabbed one storage pouch, it was clear that the other storage pouches were filled with various magic tools. In addition, there were also two pseudo-magic treasures. The Scorching Sun Bow and the Ghost Spirit Claw were both borrowed from their senior martial brother. They didn't have any pseudo-magic treasures themselves. To them, pseudo-magic treasures were extremely attractive. Even if they advanced to the core formation realm on this demon island, they would still be far from obtaining core formation realm Dharma treasures. Generally, cultivators who had just advanced to the core formation realm would first obtain a pseudo-magic treasure as a companion to ensure their strength. For core formation realm cultivators, pseudo-magic treasures were inferior to Dharma treasures, but they could already unleash part of the strength of a core formation realm cultivator. What's that? Just as the bald man was looking at his opponents greedily, the woman who had been silent at the side suddenly spoke with a clear and bright voice. A fiery red token floated out of the pile of materials on the ground and floated up, rotating slightly. Upon hearing the woman's words, they looked over. They realized that it was a sect token with the words Yang Clan engraved on the front and Weapon Refinement Peak engraved on the back. Yang Clan? Yang Clan's Weapon Refinement Peak disciples. The immortal cultivation sect that was destroyed by the miraculous gate and is famous for their weapon refinement techniques. After clearly seeing the words on the token, they all revealed an expression of great joy. As elite disciples of the 10 great sects of the state of Chu, they were naturally aware of what had happened in the cultivation world of the state of Wei. The Yang clan had been completely destroyed, and even the fate of their nascent soul cultivators was unknown. However, it was said that a few Foundation establishment disciples had escaped with the treasures of the clan. Could be the two in front of them? When the four saw the bag of refinement materials, they immediately became more convinced of this conjecture and revealed a scorching and vigilant expression. The two Scorching Sun sect cultivators calmly took 2 steps back, and the Scorching Sun bow in front of them slowly ignited with flames. As for the Ghost Spirit sect disciples' Ghost Spirit Claw, it also floated up and emitted a faint gray radiance. When the silent woman saw this scene, the corner of her mouth revealed a trace of a playful smile. Just a moment ago, the cultivators of the two sects were very friendly and had planned to divide the spoils equally. Now that they discovered that the storage bag was likely to contain the treasures of the Yang clan, they immediately became hostile. At that moment, the sound of a thunderclap suddenly came from afar, causing them to involuntarily look up. What's that? In the distant sky, there was a streak of purple light that resembled plasma. It was extremely fast and was even faster than a flying magic tool used by a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator. Furthermore, the four could faintly make out the silhouette of a man within the streak of lightning. Just as their expressions grew increasingly tense, the streak of lightning had already passed over their heads and flew off into the distance. They glanced at each other and sighed in relief. They clearly saw that the man within the streak of light didn't use any flying magic tools and was completely flying through the air. On the Demon Devil Island, there were only Foundation establishment cultivators. As these four came from the 10 great sects, they all knew that Peak Foundation establishment cultivators were able to fly through the air by relying on various secret techniques and profound magic power and spiritual sense. However, Only the strongest cultivators of the 10 great sects were capable of such a feat, however. This person clearly possessed a lightning attribute cultivation art. This time, none of the disciples of the 10 great sects that came to the Demon Devil Island cultivated a lightning attribute cultivation art. The four couldn't help but feel puzzled. Chapter 392. The bald man from a scorching sun sect frowned and took a closer look at the smiling woman from the ghost spirit sect. He suddenly felt uneasy. He solemnly said, "Fellow Taoists, we still can't be certain that they are disciples of the Yang clan. How about we divide them equally like before? We came to the Demon Devil Island to advance to core formation. It would be bad if we were to fight each other and suffer heavy injuries. I heard that the Golden Spear sect disciples were heavily injured by a powerful vagrant cultivator. I fear that the one with the most severe injuries will have no hope of reaching core formation on the Demon Devil Island." The woman from the Ghost Spirit sect inwardly sneered. Just as she was about to take action, she suddenly sensed something and looked up at the sky. Seeing this, the two from the Scorching Sun sect were unmoved. In fact, they even secretly despised this feint. But soon after, they heard the familiar sound of thunder exploding. They followed the woman's gaze, and their expressions changed. They didn't know when, but the man who could fly had returned. And looking at the direction he was flying in, it was right in their direction. The disciples of the two sects also discovered that the lightning streak hadn't slowed down much and appeared as if it were about to fall. They quickly retreated. However, as the woman from the Ghost Spirit sect slowly retreated, she wore a puzzled expression and faintly muttered to herself. Boom! In the end, under the dumbstruck gazes of the 6 cultivators below, the lightning streak fiercely struck the empty space between the two sects and the Yang clan, raising a cloud of dust. When the dust settled, a tall and sturdy man with short hair and a long face appeared. It was Lu Kuan who had changed his appearance. He had been experimenting with his Imperial Thunder escape technique. He had just been passing by, but his golden eyes had seen the situation below clearly. Of course, he remembered Yu Yifeng and Song Ping Er. However, he only had a business relationship with them. Moreover, the masters of these two people had shown him their power. Lu Kuan wouldn't have saved them, but he unexpectedly discovered the Yang clan's command medallion and changed his mind. As the second senior martial brother of the Tool Refinement Peak, Lu Kuan was extremely familiar with the command medallion and immediately wanted to examine it. However, due to his Imperial Thunder escape technique, when flying in a straight line for a long distance, there was no way for him to quickly change his direction or reduce his speed. He could only make a detour in the distance and return. Before he could flexibly control the Imperial Thunder escape technique, if he landed, he could only fall. As for the 4 disciples from the 10 great system-allocated sects in front of him, Lu Kuan had some impression of them when he was outside Demon Island. He didn't pay any attention to the cultivators who were on high alert. Instead, he took 2 steps forward and arrived at the original location of the Scorching Sun sect and the Ghost Spirit sect. He looked at the scattered materials on the ground. With a wave of his hand, the red token flew into his hand. Lu Kuan carefully rubbed it a few times with his hand and carefully observed it with his divine sense. He muttered to himself, "It really is the token of the crafting peak. It's genuine. Strange." After Lu Kuan used the special method of the crafting peak to examine it, he suddenly realized that there was a small restriction placed on the token. He was very familiar with this restriction method. It was a secret technique that the crafting peak lord had mastered. In the past, he had seen Yao Wufeng use it. The other core formation martial uncles of the peak were also able to use it. When I return, I'll have senior martial brother Qin examine it. He is also the crafting peak lord, so he should also know this restriction. With a plan in mind, Lu Kuan gently brushed all the materials under his feet with one hand, and very naturally, he put them away. Lu Kuan, who was channeling his magic power, was at the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment. The cultivators opposite him were able to see through his cultivation, and they were all stunned. The Ghost Spirit sect cultivator surnamed Fei couldn't help but loudly say, "Fellow Taoist, you didn't say anything and took away our spoils of war. You're looking down on our ghost spirit sect and the scorching sun sect too much. Lu Kuan indifferently glanced at the four and didn't pay them any attention. Regardless of whether it was their divine sense or magic power, they were somewhat inferior to the likes of Philostikes and Tion Rengia. If it was before his breakthrough, he would have been somewhat apprehensive. But now that he had reached mid-foundation establishment, he could use his peak strength to battle for a much longer time. He simply didn't place them in his eyes. He didn't even look at the Fey Cultivator and turn around to walk towards Yu Yifeng and the others. Even if he didn't know the course of the battle, he was able to see that the storage pouch belonged to the senior martial brother and junior martial sister. Just as Lu Kuan was about to ask, he suddenly felt a wave of scorching magic power fluctuations behind him. Lu Kuan sneered. He turned around and saw 3 flame arrows, which were emitting the power of peak intermediate spells, shooting towards him. Spiritual light flashed from his hands, and a purplish-black ball of lightning appeared in each of his hands. At the same time, a purple barrier of light enveloped his arms. Soon after, Lu Kuan's fist, which was holding the ball of lightning, collided with the flame arrows that were capable of breaking through the magic power barrier of a peak foundation establishment cultivator. Bang! 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 The 3 seemingly powerful magic techniques were extinguished one by Lu Kuan's seemingly ordinary fists. The remnants of the flames exploded on Lu Kuan's bare arms and broke through the faint purple barrier. However, they didn't cause any damage to his arms. Impossible! The bald man's face was filled with disbelief when he saw this. When the Ghost Spirit Sect Cultivator saw this, his heart sank. Although he clearly saw that this person was at the peak of mid-foundation establishment, the fact that this person was able to fly greatly increased his vigilance. He had already secretly tossed out a concealment magic treasure. The man with the surname Fei abruptly formed a hand seal, and a giant ghost claw formed from gray spirit light suddenly appeared above Lu Kuan, emanating an eerie, ghostly aura. Be careful, fellow Taoist. At that moment, Yu Yifeng recovered some of his strength and felt the ghost spirit claw's aura, causing him to immediately shout. However, the burly man seemed to be able to see the ghost spirit claw's magic tools. The weapons in his hands had already turned into 2 sparkling silver staves. The silent woman from the ghost spirit sect had been paying attention to Lu Kuan's movements the entire time. When she saw that he was able to see through the ghost spirit claw's concealment, her eyes shined with a trace of hidden spiritual power. Lu Kuan inwardly sneered. Although his spiritual sense wasn't necessarily able to detect the ghost spirit claw's concealment technique, his mysterious golden eye ability was no small matter. He had already seen the ghost spirit claw approaching him. As a result, he promptly took out his Thunderfall staff and planned to meet it head-on. But just as he was about to gather his strength and attack the ghost spirit claw began to emit strange fluctuations. Lu Kuan suddenly felt all sorts of ghostly cries and howls in his mind. His spiritual sense became dazed and his hands stopped moving. The huge ghost spirit claw seized the opportunity to grab onto Lu Kuan. In the distance, the 2 Scorching Sun Sect cultivators had a tacit understanding. They didn't hesitate to expend their vitality and shot out 6 arrows through the gaps in the ghost spirit claw, accurately striking Lu Kuan's defenseless body. A series of explosions rang out. The ghost spirit claw's greatest use was to control the enemy, while the Scorching Sun arrow's strength lay in its offensive power. When these 2 pseudo-magic treasures worked together, their abilities complemented each other, and their might was astonishing. The 2 male practitioners of the Scorching Sun sect and the man with the surname Fei heaved a sigh of relief inwardly. This strange man could fly in the air and even calmly received 3 Scorching Sun arrows, which made them feel extremely pressured, as if they were facing their senior brother in the sect. Just as they relaxed, the woman from the ghost spirit sect's expression suddenly changed, and she involuntarily cried out, "Not good." Just as her voice fell, the huge ghost spirit claw's pseudo-magic treasure suddenly shattered. The man surnamed Fei's face paled. At the same time, he felt the ghost spirit claw's main body being blasted away by a huge force, causing him to feel a burst of tightness in his chest. The woman beside him couldn't help but take a step back, as if she had also suffered some damage. When the two Scorching Sun sect cultivators saw this, their eyes widened and they cried out in alarm. How is this possible? They saw that the mid-foundation establishment cultivator's robes were somewhat tattered and his exposed skin was only slightly charred. He was actually completely unscathed under the attack of the two pseudo-magic treasures. Furthermore, this unfamiliar man's body had also undergone some changes. His arms were deformed and thickened by several times. His veins were bulging, making him look incomparably ferocious. The two shining silver staves in his hands had also become a size larger. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.